Hello there, Atheist Junior here, your friend and humble narrator. And hello there. We are doing a debate after show for the 2-on-1 debate that James W. did along with Luca. Luca couldn't join us, but man, that was an excellent debate. I watched the entire thing. But first, before anybody says anything, I am going to play some recordings that I made of Kent Hovind evolving into different types of birds.
Oh, real science.
Oh my.
Okay, so let me know if you guys can hear this.
Yeah.
Wait, can you?
Yeah, we hear it.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this one is a parrot.
That's a good one.
And then we have a chicken. Okay.
I mean, he's about to evolve into a jailbird shortly, so at least
I don't know.
30 days.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think he's always been a giant cock, quite frankly.
Oh my.
So
Yeah.
James,
Yeah, that was
Mark,
the
Amy,
local
how are you guys doing?
call.
I'm doing good. How you been, AJ? Always lots of good stuff going on your channel. I'm thrilled with the growth that you've got. The content you put out is good. You've got a great subscriber base.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a $5 super chat from Lorraine Drossofolia. Regrets how many super chats did SFT read? So SFT did not read my questions to Kent, nor this person's, even though he said he would read my questions. Let it be known that SFT poor shames people, and you got to pony up the dough if you want to ask questions to Kent. If you want him to dodge your question and not answer it, you got to spend money, okay? And I am very poor and broke. So thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, I didn't see any point where Donnie said, "Oh, we're not taking any more super chats," kind of thing, which should be the thing you do if you're, because you can't. If there's a lot of questions, you can't obviously have somebody go for 3 hours or something answering questions. But if that's the case, you have to say, we cannot do any more super chats. So if you send them in, they won't be.
At your own risk. Yeah.
I mean, technically, exactly. I was like the second person to send in a question.
No, I'm just talking about super chats.
I totally agree. You know what I mean?
To be honest, the thing with Kent is he's always got very light time constraints. He's always trying to run the hell out of there. So, that you never get to read all the questions because he's always got to go. Hovind.
You notice how he always tells Donnie like, "Oh, when are we going to do the Q&A? We're going to start the Q&A." You know?
Yeah. Yeah, he's sort of very. He will be really adamant about time, and I don't think it's because he's got anything to do. I think it's because he wants to put a time limit on the amount you can chase him around the paddock that he runs around, basically.
Before it gets circular.
And I must admit, I do apologize, James. I missed most of the debate. Got up a bit late. Had a bit of a late night and got up a bit late. But what I did see, you and Luca addressed the questions very well. So I just came in at the questioning, and I really apologize, mate. I wish I'd known last night, obviously. But then again, you see one Kent debate, you're kind of seeing them all, really. Was there anything new that he brought up? Anything, novel?
I really noticed. What do you think, AJ?
No, not especially. Really, his opening statement was literally the 6 types of evolution. Bullshit. Polystrata trees. Evolution is a religion. You didn't present any evidence. It literally does not matter what what James or Luca could have said. It does not matter what they could have possibly said. Doesn't matter how many examples they could have presented, how many scientific papers or what they could have presented. No matter what, Kent's going to say, I didn't see any evidence. You didn't present any evidence. And the people in the chat are going to say, why didn't they show any evidence?
Right,
Really,
and I love that James sort of said something that I said in my debate, where he said that Kent's already made up his mind. You know, that I really like that, and I loved a lot of the arguments that James made. You know, I thought it was one of the best debate performance I've seen James do so far.
Well, thank you, AJ.
I'll certainly watch it.
And one of the best in a while. I just love the way you handle Kent. It's funny to me, you know.
You have to kind of be a little irreverent. You have to be a little you
yeah.
have to really, to get him going, to trigger him, you really have to know what gets to him. Otherwise, he'll be just as cool as a cucumber, but you really, if you want a lively debate, you really got to get him going.
Hells yeah, he does, Hillhugger.
You said cucumber, and my mind just went to dirty places. Thank you, Hillhugger, for a $10 Australian super chat. It says, because AJ deserves more than SFT. Well, thank you.
Hillhugger, what a guy. He actually emailed me a really good sort of argument for evolution that's or against young Earth creationism, really, sort of saying, well, if the dinosaurs were only 6,000 years old or whatever, why can we analyze the DNA of animals but not dinosaurs? Right? Why can't we get a DNA sequence from dinosaurs if they're only that old? And I think that's an excellent argument, you know, because we can get sort of, you know, mammoth DNA and things like that. They claim that dinosaurs lived at the same time. Why can't we get a DNA sample for a dinosaur?
Well, they also like showing sources that don't agree with them at all. So they will show a article that is like, breaking news, a mammoth lived only 300,000 years ago. And they're like, look, they were wrong. It only lives a different time than what they actually said. And you're like, yes.
They previously said 310,000. Now it's only 300,000.
Exactly. What does the results say?
I'm going to push back against that, Amy. They do show sources that disagree with them, but only the sections of those sources that they can misconstrue into agreeing with them.
Well,
I will push back on that.
Well, I will agree with that, because what they are doing is they are showing basically the abstract and not showing the result, or not even reading all of the abstract, because often it'll tell you the results by the end. And so my favorite example of this, especially since, I mean, Jesus, in Kent's opening, just like AJ was saying, he was going over the 6 things of evolution, and then he also quote lines from a whole bunch of, he would say, are evolutionists. They're called biologists, and my favorite example is evolution does not exist, quote Stephen Jay Gould. And this is what Kent does all the time.
Yeah, quote mining.
James, I did have a comment I wanted to make. Possibly you could call it a criticism, maybe not a criticism.
Sure.
But when you brought up Kent's video about tapeworms, the worms, hairworms, I was like, yes, because I thought you were going to say something, and then you sort of held back, because I thought you were going to say, so Kent, you're praising hairworms, which are a parasite that creates a cyst in their host to reproduce. You know what I mean? And I thought you were going to go like, why are you praising a God for designing this? You know what I mean? And that's what I would have said, but you know, there
were times where I was where I didn't want to overshadow Luke, because it was his debate, and I didn't want to completely take Kent off the rails. But yeah, what you're saying, that's a great topic. Like, because I've thought before, like when he's praising the bacteria flagellar, like flagellar. That's the Otangelar version of it.
An amoeba.
Yeah, it's like, oh, God had to intelligently design these bacteria so they could infect and kill people. Otherwise, the bacteria wouldn't be able to infect that many people. People wouldn't die. Thank you, God.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, Kent does make the argument that, you know, if you start to learn about evolution or accept evolution, it's going to destroy your faith as a Christian, which isn't exactly true, but there is sort of a grain of truth to that, because Darwin...
A little bit.
Really, that's sort of happened to him in a way, because one of the things that really made Darwin feel like there couldn't be a loving and caring God that designed the animal ecosystem on Earth was when he discovered parasitic wasps that lay their eggs inside a caterpillar, and their young, basically, once they grow, they eat their way out of the caterpillar from the inside, killing it.
It's still alive at the time.
And using it as his first meal. And he found this so upsetting. That was not the reason, it didn't make him an atheist, but, you know, it was very upsetting for him. And he listed it as one of the reasons that sort of, you know, challenged him, you know, on believing in God.
Because nature has both such horrible and amazing things that if you look out, and they often try to, you know, to focus on one or the other. Look at the trees. Isn't it so amazing? It's just so beautiful. There must be a God. But when you actually look out into the universe, it looks fairly cold, uncaring, and the type of universe we would expect if no God were to exist at all.
Well, but when you say look at the slums of Mombasa or look at the cancer ward, the pediatric cancer ward, they say you can't blame God for any of that. That's not his fault. But the pretty things, we give God the credit for that.
Well, I think the pretty things are prettier because we don't think there's a God creating them. They're unique, they're special, they're worth preserving kind of thing. I think that, you know, sort of not having a God. I think Hitchens, you know, the late great Hitch made a similar argument about worms that burrowed into children's eyes and made them blind, and that was part of their life cycle. It's hard to imagine a God that goes, well, I'm going to design these worms to burrow into children's eyes specifically, make them blind, and that's part of the great wonder of the universe. It's like, what kind of God does that?
Yeah, you know, but if you think about it, you know, the animal kingdom is so brutal. There's so much suffering and predation, and being an animal, they obviously have to fear the fact that you might get mauled in a second.
Plants are brutal as well.
What's the one thing that has allowed humans to sort of live comfortably where we don't have to worry about that? It's science. It's scientific advancements like farming, agriculture, living in houses, modern plumbing, air conditioning, computers, technology. It's not religion that did that, because people had religion for thousands of years, maybe 6,000 years, and it didn't do any of those things.
Yeah.
Well, the joke normally is aimed at philosophy, but you can even more so aim it at theology. If you ask someone, what has science given us in the past 50, 100, 150 plus years, I think people could write entire books, list entire categories. If you ask, what has been created, given back to humanity or society in the past 200 years from theology, the answer is nothing.
They built a couple of cathedrals that are quite nice.
Yes, exactly. So the only example that I would accept is maybe art.
I'm sorry. They used engineering principles, so that doesn't really count. So, yeah.
And yes, and has that even been in the past 200 years? I would say maybe that what's it called? The priest that help us with the Big Bang. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Wasn't it a monk? I can't remember his name. Damn. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was a monk that sort of came up with the idea of the Big Bang.
Or at least I do know that the Catholic Church funds a astrological center. So they actually have scientists that are doing science, but even they go in there and separate it out. I also just want to comment on the debate that I thought, James, you did amazing. I thought it was
Amy.
Absolutely.
You and Luca make a good pair. Is that you have someone who he seems like a biology type of guy. You seem to really, really know how to get under Ken Hovind's skin, like just very lightly, without much effort. And a good example of this is just bringing up his rhetoric with the LGBTQ community. He can't really take shit back. he is very good at trying to take other debaters.
Complained about that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, he tried to say that it was like off topic for you to mention it, as if he doesn't constantly bring it up randomly in
first
every
thing he
video and
mentioned
debate.
about you is, AJ's bisexual. One of the first things he did about Daria, bring up her gender issues. He brings.
I just have to interject for a second, AJ. Like, I get that you were timed out unnecessarily on SFTs, but if it's wrong to do so on FFTs, it's wrong to do it here as well. So I don't know. I think that it was wrong of him, his mods to time you out, and so I wouldn't stoop to his level by just timing out people you disagree with, because that's not right.
I mean, if somebody's going to call us a bunch of like butthurt Hovind haters, I mean, but I respect your opinion.
That's my opinion. I don't mind
being disruptive or
yeah.
I don't mind if they call me a butthurt Hovind hater.
Okay, going forward, I will not time out anybody unless they say something mean about Amy.
Yeah, or really insulting people.
Like Sunflower yesterday. That was weird.
Well, I can see someone said, "What a bunch of haters." Oh,
Sunflower insulted me after complimenting me. I had the Flat Earth debate. At the very beginning of that debate, all he was doing was insulting me, and I didn't say anything. And slowly but surely, by the end of the debate, I won him over, and he's like, "You know what, Amy? That was a fair debate." And I think someone on MDD did end up timing him out. Maybe he blamed that for me, but I'll tell you, that wasn't me. I treated him like a gentleman. So did he talk shit after that?
He said Amy didn't pass, and I did an open mic yesterday.
Whatever.
Now he's doing flat Earth rhetoric now. Poor Sunflower. He's
not going by Sunflower anymore. That's the thing. Like he
was on SFT as Sunflower today.
Well, he came on AJ's channel.
He knew I wasn't going to add him if his name was Sunflower. I added somebody
his name
I didn't. It was, I forget. It was something weird.
Ingrid something, I can't remember. But the voice is so distinctive with that sort of crack in the middle of it and everything.
There's voice crack.
Voice.
No way I would not.
Hey, Mark. You looking good with that bald head of yours.
So the subject is Jesus came back from the dead. I want to talk about why everyone's gay now.
A's philosophy.
Ken
Hovind the whole time.
What's up, C Science? I said hi to you, and you were tagging me off there. I always feel weird talking on other people's channels, though I am on my brother from another mother's channel here. But I'm still saying hi, C Science, and send you love.
So C Science is the rogue mod that timed me out and lost his wrench for doing so today, because everybody
he revoked his wrench. Wow.
Apparently so. That's what he said. I assume so. I don't know for sure, but that's what he said. Because he wouldn't answer why he timed me out. For some reason,
it was because you're Australian.
Probably, but everybody over at SFT knows me and knows that I don't just throw insults or break the rules of what they consider acceptable. I disagree with them stringently, but that's not a reason to
I was being pretty disruptive, I will admit that. But I get excited during debates. I get hyped. I can't help it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not really disruptive. I just disagree with people on there. And so when someone disagrees with you and you take a punitive action, and Donnie knows this, it makes you look terrible that your mods are timing them out. So C Science is really doing a big, making his channel look bad. So I don't know what crossed his mind. Well, I've had him blocked for ages. I don't really want to talk.
I pointed that out about Ken.
We have a guest, guys. I've A's Philosophy. Are you there? Please say something. Please tell me something. Say something.
Well, I had a couple of comments.
Sure.
Mark mentioned an email he received a little earlier about why dinosaur DNA hasn't been sequenced, and actually it has. So I just wanted to correct the record there. They've sequenced the DNA of T-Rex, of the soft tissue of T-Rex bones. Which
when did they do that?
Well, I actually just found a paper online, so they have. And you have to understand that that actually does refute your entire worldview. I know, so you're probably just rejected its happened.
That's Mary Schweitzer. She actually put a banner on the top saying they did not find the blood vessels necessary to sequence. They found collagen fibers. Collagen fibers are soft tissue, but they're not something they could sequence the DNA of. So this is a long-standing misinterpretation by creationists that go, oh, they found soft tissue, they found blood, they could sequence the DNA. None of that is true.
And Mary Schweitzer actually paper.
Mary Schweitzer actually did an open letter to creationists clearing up the misunderstandings. And I'll find an open letter by her because it's very interesting what she says and how they've misinterpreted what she did. So give me a second, I'll find that.
Substanding.
It's actually, the paper published has nothing to do with Mary Schweitzer. They sequenced she wasn't the one who sequenced the DNA. She was just the one who discovered the soft tissue. And since then, soft tissue has been found on a number of dinosaur fossil bones. So
can you post a link in the private chat?
He's not the only one who's found these things.
But can you link us that source?
I mean, we have sequenced the DNA of dinosaurs. I think they've sequenced the chicken genome. So, I mean, technically,
they've sequenced the DNA of T-Rex soft tissue.
They find it was very similar to a turkey or chicken.
Well, they make these things up. They say it was related to. Yes, they did say it was related to modern birds.
I agree. Yeah, that makes sense. Have you ever looked at a T-Rex's foot? Have you ever looked at a T-Rex's foot and compared it to a chicken's foot?
I'm looking at it right now. National Science Foundation news release 08068. Study shows that's genetic sequencing of protein from T-Rex bone confirms dinosaurs linked to bones.
Could you add the link in the private chat though?
And,
P-Town,
I'm wrong.
Are you there? Sorry. Are you? Do you have a mic? Do you have a microphone?
If I'm wrong, I definitely want to know. So link the paper, and I'll certainly have a look at it.
Mark twice if you're in Milwaukee.
It's in the private chat.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do that.
Hello, well, you have to realize if this is true that they've sequenced this, or even if they found real soft tissue, which they basically admitted, even if you want to admit it's been sequenced, it does kind of disprove the idea that these things are 65 million years old.
Wait, this not only doesn't do that, but this is basically an anti-creationist paper. It's like why dinosaurs definitely are birds. So we should probably be talking about the title.
Oh, so you're admitting they sequenced the DNA of T-Rex bones, right? I just want to get that on the record.
No, I'm saying that you're not even able to read out the article because the title in itself is anti-creationist. So why don't we talk about what they're talking about?
What does it say? What is the title?
It says, genetic sequencing of protein from T-Rex bone confirms dinosaur link to birds.
Boom. Protein found in 65 million year old.
Falsified.
It's actually 66 million years now.
Whatever.
Well, it's actually
whatever. Science.
So
Whatever. The paper I gave doesn't say what I wanted.
So the link that you've given me says molecular analysis or genetic sequencing of a 68 million year old T-Rex protein from the dinosaur's femur confirms that T-Rex shares a common ancestry with chickens, ostriches, and to a lesser extent, alligators. So
yes.
The link that you've provided shows that you're wrong.
Wrong about what?
That it's not. It's a young age. The whole reason we sort of say, hey, we can't find a complete genome from a dinosaur is because of the age of it. But this says that your own link, your own source, that you're saying, hey, look at this. It is correct. Says that it's 68 million years old.
Okay, you realize they made up that date, right? They just had to make it seem like it's that old.
So you're going to provide a source that says this and say, well, I disagree with this part now because my source, I want to take whatever I want from that source and ignore all the rest of what they say. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the point is they found sequenceable proteins in a T-Rex fossil, which is completely impossible if it's 68 million years old.
This is your source. This is what you have presented to say. This is.
They don't know. They don't know it's 68 million years old. What they do know is that there was a protein, and they sequenced the DNA.
I'm going to take your source as accurate. This is your source.
I would like to hear what Ryan thinks.
Well, there's also not just dinosaurs, but there was also like mammoths and stuff like that found soft tissue of mammoths when they found some specimens of them.
But those are much more recent.
They're not all that old compared to dinosaurs.
I guess the point is that when we have animals that sort of lived 6,000 years ago or so, we can find DNA in all kinds of things, right? We can find, say, for something that came off the ark, right? Elephants. We can find DNA in bones, in other tissue, in we can find it very readily. The question becomes, why is it specifically dinosaurs that the DNA is so hard to find? If dinosaurs are the same age as everything else, we should be able to obtain the DNA just as easily, but we can't. And that's why this discovery is remarkable, and I don't think it's the entire sequence. So why don't we find them just as easily as other creatures that lived 6,000 years ago?
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
Are you asking me?
I would like to play some of this video.
Anybody that cares to answer, I suppose. I mean, that's the argument.
Yes, we are. Let's watch a little bit of this.
Stated Clearly presents the scientific saga of Dr. Mary Schweitzer and her discovery of soft tissue inside a dinosaur bone.
By the way, I am going to be doing a collab with Stated Clearly on my channel very soon, so look forward to that.
In 2003, a team of paleontologists finished excavating an incomplete yet extremely well-preserved T-Rex skeleton. During transport, the animal's femur, its thigh bone, had to be broken in two. While the bone was eventually put back together, pieces that had fallen out were kept separate and then sent to Dr. Mary Schweitzer for dissection and analysis. After applying a mild acid to the fragments to remove hard minerals, a diverse collection of soft material could be seen under the microscope. It included what looked like cells and tiny blood vessels. They were very degraded, but similar to those commonly found inside fresh bone. Chemical analysis further revealed what looked like animal proteins. Dr. Schweitzer was shocked. According to our understanding at the time, unless treated with chemicals, the way that leather is, for example, and then further sealed for preservation, soft tissue was predicted to completely deteriorate, even under the best of circumstances, in less than 1 million years. This T-Rex leg bone, however, was thought to be millions of years old. What could this discovery of soft tissue mean? To Dr. Schweitzer and to many other researchers, there were three main possibilities. Number one, the fossil might be far younger than previously thought, maybe even less than 1 million years old. Number two, the fossil could have been recently contaminated by microbes that produced the soft structures after the bone had fossilized, a substance known as biofilm. Option number three, there might be a previously unknown natural mechanism capable of preserving soft tissue far longer than 1 million years. Having studied paleontology throughout her career, Dr. Schweitzer immediately knew that option number one was least likely. The fossil had been found in a set of rock layers known as the Cretaceous. Ancient sediments lay down between 145 to 66 million years ago. Our understanding of the age of these rocks is founded on thousands of data points telling us how rock layers form, on the careful study of the rise and fall of various ecosystems and animal groups in the fossil record, and on the clear results of hundreds of experiments on radiometric dating. Many overlapping radiometric dating methods have been used to confirm the age range of Cretaceous rocks, and the results have been independently checked by laboratories around the globe. To successfully argue that her single discovery means that the fossil is actually young, she would have to ignore everyone else's careful observations. Given the extreme imbalance of evidence, it seemed to her and to other well-informed thinkers that option number one was not plausible. Early on, her colleagues argued that option number two was most likely. As is the custom in science, Papers were published critiquing Dr. Schweitzer's work. Many of them suggested that what she had found was actually biofilm. After closer examination, several years of debate, and many papers published back and forth, however, the scientific community is now largely convinced. The soft tissue that Dr. Schweitzer found is authentic. It did come from the original T-Rex. This left informed thinkers to suspect that option number 3 was most likely. But how? What natural process or collection of natural processes could allow soft tissue to remain intact for over 66 million years? Nobody had an answer, but Dr. Schweitzer was determined to figure it out. As luck would have it, when first uncovering her discovery, she randomly attended a lecture on brain disease which focused on the destructive power of free iron particles on living tissue. Iron is extremely common in our blood. Normally, however, it's trapped safely inside hemoglobin, a blood protein that uses iron to capture oxygen in the lungs and deliver it throughout the body. While iron is safe and highly useful inside hemoglobin, loose iron particles can wreak havoc on our cells. In a process called cross-linking, iron can trigger a series of chemical reactions, eventually causing proteins and other cellular structures to unravel and fuse together in a tangled, useless mess. In living animals, cross-linking is bad. In dead tissue, however, Dr. Schweitzer knew that cross-linking leads to preservation. Chemicals that we use to turn delicate animal skins into tough, durable leather do so by cross-linking proteins. Formaldehyde, the chemical used to preserve soft tissue in museum specimens, also uses cross-linking to do its work. When Dr. Schweitzer examined the soft tissue from her dinosaur fossil, she found that it was saturated in iron crystals. When the T-Rex had died, blood must have begun to decompose, releasing iron from hemoglobin. As iron spread through tissue and bone, it initiated cross-linking. The soft tissues most affected would have been preserved like leather for a long period of time. Tissues that were both cross-linked and sealed safely inside hard bone were double protected, allowing them to survive for millions of years until present day. Based on the evidence, her explanation seemed reasonable, but being a trained scientist, Dr. Schweitzer was not satisfied until she found a way to test her idea. To do so, she designed an experiment. Ostriches are among the closest living relatives to dinosaurs. Their bones are rich in blood vessels, just like those found in the fossil. She obtained an ostrich femur and extracted the vessels using a series of acid and enzyme treatments. At room temperature, one group of blood vessels was placed in a watery, iron-free solution. She wanted to find out how long the vessels took to decompose. A second batch was placed in a solution of iron-rich hemoglobin. The vessels in normal solution turned to mush in just 3 days, quickly destroyed by microbes and other natural chemical reactions. After 2 years, vessels soaked in iron-rich hemoglobin remained completely intact. No signs of degradation could be found. Now, of course, 2 years is a far cry from 66 million years. Further experiments may reveal that there is more to this mystery, but Mary Schweitzer's discovery has opened us up to a new understanding of how decomposition works in large animals. Furthermore, her story is a beautiful example of how good science is done. She began by making an observation, presented that observation to the scientific community for their feedback and critique. She then came up with an explanation or hypothesis for the observation. And finally, using her creativity, she designed an experiment to test that hypothesis. Now that we know soft tissue can be preserved naturally, far longer than previously imagined, researchers have begun looking for and finding soft tissue in the fossils of many different species. The study of these ancient structures is helping increase our understanding of how extinct animals once lived and evolved on our planet.
Okay, thank you guys for letting me watch the entire video. That was kind of amazing after having Sunflower on my stream yesterday. But there is a spot open. If
Mark had
Town, if you want to come back in, or whoever wants to come back in, now's your chance. You could be on an Atheist Junior video, dude.
Great night, Mark.
Yeah, Mark, that's what exactly. I was wrong. It appears it was not DNA, but rather the protein peptide sequence. So that is worth noting. But I
Credit
think
for admitting that you were wrong. I'm surprised, honestly.
well, I don't think it matters, to be honest. I think regardless, it's pretty destructive to this old Earth theory.
Can I ask you a question, Ace Philosophy?
Yeah.
Have you always believed in a young Earth?
Actually, I don't believe in a young Earth, but I believe the Earth could be millions or billions of years old. But
Old Earth creationist?
Huh?
Are you old Earth creationist?
Yeah, I think old Earth creationism makes a lot more sense.
See, but you don't understand. Like, creationists very rarely admit that they are wrong about something. So I give you kudos for that. Really.
Indeed.
Well, it's a pretty minor point, and it's something
But I mean, the thing is, when we see one data point that contradict everything else, I mean, you have to ask questions. If we see one thing that seems to contradict everything else about the natural world, isn't it more likely that maybe that one thing we need to take another look at it and see what's going on there before we throw everything else out?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can ask those questions. Is there a possible, natural explanation for this?
But just as an example, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just as an example, Kent Hovind cannot even admit the fact that somebody said, Kent, you say that atheists or evolutionists think that they came from a rock, but, you should say rocks. And Kent could not admit the fact that he actually was wrong on that, saying it was singular. He says, oh, the word rock can mean plural or singular, even though if you say a rock, that's singular. You know what I mean? Right. He couldn't even admit that he was wrong on that stupid point. So that was just my example.
I mean, he's a guy who spent like how many years fighting a $50 permit?
I was just looking that up the other day, James. You mentioned that the other day, and I actually looked through the court records. They're still online in Pensacola, and it is amazing. Seriously,
all the sob sit bullshit. You get to see his documents.
It's unbelievable, dude.
Can I also say about that sentence, like, he is a rhetoricist because he makes sentences like that, which are very stupid, sound good. Because if he sat there and he pointed at people who accept biology and he went, these people think we came from carbon, everyone would be like, yes, what's your point? But he has to just go really super vague. Oh, but they just think you came from a rock. It tries to conjure up this image as if a boulder just happened to fall over and then poof, there were apes and humans.
I've talked about that before, Amy, because Kent, he says, the Earth was hot and molten, and then it cooled down and turned into rock, and then it rained on the rocks.
Thank you, Cecil.
And then it turned into soup. He says, they came from a rock. He could say, if you're just going to pick something out from that list of steps, that he could say, they think they came from water. And I would probably be able to say, I agree with that. You could say that we came from water, and I think it would be accurate, more accurate than rock. And our bodies are made up of like 60% water,
Soup. What do you mean by soup? He always likes to say soup. Like,
it's him misunderstanding the primordial soup and saying, it turned into Campbell's soup and the soup came alive.
Yeah, I'm like,
well, Darwin did write in his book.
It's like, what the hell does that have to do with anything about
like he just made it up.
Well,
it's
we're
just
not talking about
classic combining abiogenesis and evolution. Just classic.
But he's also taking something. He's taking something that.
Darwin was the first guy to write about primordial soup, and he did use the word soup. So Kent didn't make it up.
True, that's not true.
We're not making fun of the concept of a primordial soup. We're making fun of the concept that he doesn't understand it. Like, as in, life came from water. And so the fact that life arose in water, he turns that into, they think it came from soup. And the fact that we're carbon-based life, he turns it into, they think we came from a rock. It's true. We are carbon-based life forms that came from water. Both of those sentences.
No, actually, Amy, more bad science. Life could not have originated.
Facts.
I have to correct you on what you said, though.
From a chemical standpoint, life could not have originated in water because
what?
Yeah, because protein amino acids cannot bond in an aqueous environment.
Who cares?
Okay, so a protein has to be able to bond with nearby proteins.
That's way after like the origin of life. Yeah. That's way after.
Okay, according to your made-up imaginary theory.
I have to correct you. Darwin did not come up with primordial soup. That was JBS Haldane in 1929. Darwin didn't come up with primordial soup. That's just not true. So, not going to let you slide on that one, you little rascal.
Don't let him get away with that one.
But go ahead. Keep telling me how my worldview is wrong.
Well, at some point, proteins do, or even if you want to go with the also thoroughly debunked RNA world hypothesis. At some point, proteins do have to join the scene, and they do have to bond with each other in an aqueous environment, and that can't happen. So it couldn't have happened in water. Sorry.
Do you have a source that says it couldn't have happened in water?
It's well-known chemistry. Amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, cannot bond in an aqueous environment. So
yeah, but we don't need proteins. We need amino acids to form.
What are proteins made of?
Way down the chain.
Wait, what are proteins made of, Atheist Junior?
I don't care. Okay.
Proteins are actually amino acid chains.
First you have to get the amino acids, right? First.
Right. If amino acids can't bond in water, guess what can't form?
You're changing what you said. You didn't say that a second ago.
What did I say?
I don't know. I don't know what you said verbatim.
What are proteins?
Proteins are you tell me, and I'll let you know if you got it right.
You already admitted they're chains of amino acids. Okay, amino acids cannot bond with each other in an aqueous environment. Proteins are absolutely necessary for all life on Earth as we currently observe it. So if they can't bond in an aqueous environment, that means water could not have possibly originated it in an aqueous environment. You have to understand, that's why scientists say that the little first organism had to come onto land and dry out and then bond and then go back in the water. So I'm teaching you all a lesson today. You didn't know that.
We still won't believe you. You provided no sources. You asserted your claim now, I think 2 or 3 times. If you could provide a source for why you do not think that abiogenesis or the formation of life could happen in water, that would be great.
I mean,
and by the way, Atheist Junior, hold on. I have to prove Atheist Junior wrong again because I just looked it up, and yes, Darwin did write about. He was the first one to use the term primordial soup. He wrote it in his book. So you were wrong about that too, Atheist Junior. Go look it up.
What's the page number?
Do you want me to do all your Googling for you and post it in the links, or do you want me to shame you again?
Sources ever? Sure.
All right. If I post a link, will you show it? If I post a link, will you show it to everyone so we know that you're wrong?
I'm being facetious, asking for the page number, but yeah, give me a source.
And while you're doing that, I just want to say welcome, Leo, and I just want to formally apologize for a specific creationist, which is Wesley, and I love you and welcome you on board.
You know, you might be able to answer a lot of questions, but I don't think you can tell me how Babby is formed.
Okay, he didn't use the word soup. I was wrong about that, but he did talk about. It was basically the concept of a primordial. He called it a warm little pond. So soup, pond, whatever you want to call it.
That's not like you were very confident that I was wrong on that, and now you're backtracking and backpedaling.
Sir, this conversation is being recorded.
Leo.
Howdy.
Hey, Leo.
Don't start talking about communism again, okay? Don't.
No, well, I wouldn't consider myself a communism.
I know. And I asked you yesterday. I started the conversation. You know, I think it was a great stream. Honestly, I think it was really good.
So do I.
Does Leo believe in the state-sanctioned theft of private property?
Why don't
Is that
you
what he
ask?
does?
I don't know.
him?
I don't know what that. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what
It's
you mean by that.
socialism. That's what socialism is, Leo.
That's not what socialism is. No. Would you like me to
Uh-oh.
tell you what socialism is?
And it
You
begins.
you about to unleash the Kraken, bro.
You done kicked the
What
hornet's
is socialism, Leo? Is it
Socialism is the
public ownership?
socioeconomic ideology in which the means of production are socially owned and democratically controlled by the working class.
Yeah, so you can
Nothing about the
vote for-
state in there,
Hold on,
which is
Leo.
funny because both Marx and Engels, as well as Lenin, were very critical of the state. You know this had you read Lenin's book, State and Revolution.
How
But
can
I
you
would
deprive
suspect you
people
haven't read a
of-
single
how can
word
you
of
deprive
Marxist
people of their
theory,
private
have you?
property unless the state
What is private property in Marxism? Can you tell me what private property is in Marxism?
Whatever Marx, he wanted to get rid of it. I know that.
Yeah, but what is it?
I guess it's individual ownership of property.
It's pretty much what it
Whatever
sounds
you call it,
like.
No, that's
wealth.
personal property. Individual ownership, that's personal
means of
property. But
production.
what's private property?
It's
I guess it'd be like a
I
business
can answer.
or
I
like
can answer the question.
I guess it'd be like a business or your own machines to like have your own means of producing.
Yeah, that's an example, but that's not a definition. Do you have a definition? I can give you the definition of private property as it was used by Marx, if you'd like.
How about that? How about whatever the communists want to take from everybody and appropriate for themselves? Apparently.
I don't know what. I don't think you understand what communism is. I'm not
Yeah,
surprised by that.
Let's not ask trivia questions.
Leo, maybe I'll look what the communists have done in history, and I'll judge by that because they've murdered a lot of people and enslaved a lot of people.
Well, I don't think those people were communists.
Bro, 100
Oh,
billion people died under
the Chinese
communism.
Communist Party doesn't know what communism is.
100 trillion.
Yeah, I don't think the Chinese Communist Party is communist. Just like I don't think the Republican Party in the United States is Republican, and I don't think the Democratic Party in the United States is Democratic. Because there's a word in the name of a political party doesn't mean that the political party has any actual associations with that ideology. I think everybody can recognize this.
Isn't China more state capitalist anyway? In the
Well,
modern
no,
Yeah,
they're
they
a
had to move to
totalitarian
capitalism
state.
because
But
pure
they do-
communism was failing so bad. They had to bring in some capitalism, but they can still take it from people whenever they want. It's not like
Leo, are you implying that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is not democratic?
Oh, but it's in the name, AJ, don't you know?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I actually I wanted to come in here.
I will ask it later, though.
To correct what Ace Philosophy said about amino acids not being able to bond in water or something like that. Not only is it false that they can't bond in water, but amino acids can bond with waters. I can cite like 5 or 6 papers on this if you'd like. So I don't know what you're talking about there. Also, 70% of a cell on the average is water. And I believe there's also proteins in cells. So I would recommend a more thorough examination of biochemistry and molecular biology with its application to cellular life.
Yeah, let's keep it on cell biology, guys.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, please, no politics.
If I'm not mistaken, Leo, they are able to do it, but only if the reaction is catalyzed by another protein. So a protein would have to exist for this to take place in an aqueous environment. And obviously that's the chicken and the egg problem. If there's no protein to catalyze the reaction, then how do they do it?
Though, like, let's rewind and get back to the original thing we were talking about, which was abiogenesis, because you were saying, well, proteins can't form, and I'm saying you're going way ahead of things. Like the Miller-Urey experiment showed that an early Earth environment can produce amino acids. And
oh my God, you are so behind on your science. The Miller-Urey experiment is basically useless at this point. It was not the representative of the early
still
Earth.
do experiments based on the Miller-Urey experiment today. They still do them. It's very relevant.
And Stanley Miller did further experiments with a student of his. What was his name? I can't remember. And they took the study even further. I've got the paper saved in my keep notes. I'd have to find that. But yeah, it's actually really interesting.
Are you one of these people that also thinks that Lucy has quote unquote been debunked? Because if this is the type of information that you are getting, I can assure you that neither is true. I guess my question is, do you
completely? I'm still not done with the Miller-Urey experiment because.
Well, my question with it goes with the Miller-Urey, because if you think that the Miller-Urey experiments have been debunked, and you think that Lucy has been debunked, and if you think that modern science has been debunked, then we might have like a problem. That's my main point.
Well, yeah, I think we already have a problem.
The Lucy fossil is terrible evidence for whatever they're trying to say it's evidence of.
Whoa, that was a...
Well, his claim that
certain
that amino acids can bond with water, but this has to be polarized by catalyzed, rather, my bad, by other amino acids is just not true. There are polar R groups of amino acids that are hydrophilic and readily attract water molecules without other catalysts being present.
Is it the ones that are involved in living organisms though, or is it? I know there are amino acids. I know there are amino acids that have nothing to do with living things. So maybe those can.
Well, I wasn't making any specificity to the use of the amino acids. I was just refuting the claim that they can't readily bond with water.
Okay, there are probably some,
or that it has to be catalyzed by proteins.
There are different kinds of amino acids, and
I understand that. I wasn't disputing that.
Okay, so there are 20 that are used in living organisms, basically.
Yes.
And the last I checked, maybe I'm wrong. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I was informed that these 20 amino acids can't bond in aqueous environments unless there's a catalyzing protein there to facilitate the reaction. So maybe maybe I'm not right, but that was my understanding.
Well, I'm not speaking to like the specificity of the use of the amino acids. So you very well could be correct there.
All right, so this is indeterminate. We'll leave it at that. Maybe you were right, Amy. I don't know.
Hey, honestly, like Atheist Junior was saying, that is the most honest viewpoint we can get, whether we are atheist or theist, and we often don't get that from creationists, so that is actually refreshing.
That's a step in the right direction.
Well, for some reason I remember that, but if I'd have to look at it again.
Yeah, I feel like
I might be right.
Confidently say like, dude, I'm gonna prove Atheist Junior so fucking wrong, and then like 5 minutes later, you're like, yeah, I guess I got that one wrong. Actually, it's like, well, hold on, you said I was an idiot. No, I mean you didn't say that, but
another thing about life is. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Leo.
Another thing about life is we've seen things like replication occurring in the complete absence of proteins, and things that are exactly what we would expect in Darwinian evolution occurring in the absence of proteins. So it isn't even true that like the earliest forms of life would have needed proteins. I don't know many people in the origins of life research that think that the earliest forms of life probably utilized proteins. Most think that the proteins came later.
Yeah.
Might take me a few minutes to find the article, because I have probably thousands of links saved at this point.
You are the type of person that has a lot of tabs open, I bet, Leo.
No, actually, I hate it. I hate having
tabs.
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm researching this amino acid thing. I'm trying to find out. It's not.
But you said that the RNA world has been thoroughly debunked, and
RNA world, let me tell you why it's just a non-starter. Because there's not, as far as I'm aware, there's basically no self-sustaining organism today that functions only with using RNA. Everything uses proteins. So
well, but life, but life largely still is RNA based. Like what brings the information? What brings the information from the DNA to the ribosome? An RNA. What brings the amino acid into the ribosome?
Yeah.
What is the ribosome itself made of?
See, I just feel like we don't have to rely on that one thing, though. The thing about abiogenesis is, like, we don't know which specific theory that it may have been, because it could be one, or it could be multiple, or it could be all of them at the same time, or they could be happening concurrently. We don't know. So if it's a non-starter, that doesn't mean abiogenesis is a non-starter. You
made a great point there, AJ. No, go ahead, James.
I would just say that our ignorance or our lack of definitive knowledge on exactly how it happened is no excuse to bring in magic or deities, because like I told Kent, every single time we found any explanation in nature, it's always been through naturalistic means. We've never came across anything where we needed to invoke a god or magic. We've always found answers through natural processes, even though we may not fully understand them at this present time.
So I did want to expand on the point that AJ made, because I think he's alluding to a very, very important point, and something that I've heard from a lot of people, including Lee Cronin, I believe. Is Lee Cronin the one that's, what is he, British or Australian or something like that? Or am I thinking of Eugene Koonin? They have similar last names, so I think it's Lee Cronin I'm thinking of. Anyway, I believe he said something along these lines, that the problem is we are not lacking for, or rather wanting for, viable mechanisms for how all these various structures and functions that we see in life could have got going, or even when it's likely that they would have got going. The problem is that we don't know the exact pathway or set of pathways through the massive space that is all of these viable mechanisms that was the one taken on the early Earth. So that's where the problem lies. Not in that we don't have the mechanisms, but we don't know how to put them all together to get a full picture. It's like knowing that like everything in your house is wired up right and you have electricity, but you don't actually have the full wiring schematic for your house laid out yet. You're still working to try to figure that out. You're still trying to trace back the wires to put that all together. But this doesn't defeat that you like understand how electricity works.
Yeah, he's at University of Glasgow. So
yeah, that's him. Mm-hmm. I also did find that paper on the not needing proteins. If I could read a small snippet from that, would that be okay?
I can put it on the screen if you want to post a link also, or whatever you want to do. Go for it.
But the snippet here says the improved polymerase ribozyme is able to synthesize a variety of complex structured RNAs, including aptamers, ribozymes, and, in low yield, even tRNA, transfer RNAs. Furthermore, the polymerase can replicate nucleic acids, amplifying short RNA templates by more than 10,000-fold in an RNA-catalyzed form of the PCR, or the polymerase chain reaction. Thus, the two prerequisites of Darwinian life, the replication of genetic information and its conversion into functional molecules, can now be accomplished with RNA in the complete absence of proteins, end quote. And this is from the publications in the National Academy of Sciences. And there's the link. I think it's relatively new, 2018, 2019, 2016, something like that. Yeah, 2016. And it's got Gerald Joyce, who's like a titan in the field of origins of life research. I guess David Horning is as well. So like these are two very, very renowned researchers in this field that did this paper, that wrote this paper.
Well, I added you finally, Bubblegum.
Well, speak of the devil, huh?
What's up?
Okay, how's it going? I kind of missed most of the week.
All right, I'm sorry. Hey, corporate, can I interrupt you for like 5 seconds?
Sure, go ahead.
I have been doing a little research on the side here about this amino acid protein formation in water. It appears that I am correct, but I'll just leave it at that. So I still think I'm right. All right, Bubblegum, go ahead.
So what were we guys talking about?
Abiogenesis, really.
Oh yeah, you guys.
The mechanisms and pathways that have been discovered over the last like 20 to 30 years, and that we continue to discover, give us
no, you don't.
Almost complete explanations.
We weren't talking about that. We weren't.
No, I'm saying you guys don't have any explanation for that. So I don't know. You guys
He says we don't have any
explanation. Do you have a pathway?
You said we don't have any explanation for that, but for what?
No, you guys don't.
We don't have any explanations for what?
Why should we listen to you, though?
What part of
Why should I listen to you?
What, you don't think dogs and wolves are... I'm sorry.
One person at a time. One person at a time.
But what, like, abiogenesis isn't like one thing. It's not like general relativity.
Wait,
so like what part of
wait.
It would be like saying you don't have evidence for the standard model. Like what part of the standard model is like multiple theories put together. Like what part of abiogenesis do we not have explanations for?
Do you think there's multiple origins to life or one origin?
Well, I think that
say that.
life probably got kickstarted through a variety of different processes occurring concurrently across the Earth. I also think that multiple different
see how you're dodging my question,
structures
Leo?
and substructures
Leo, you're
in
dodging
life
my
probably
question.
developed
I
more
don't have
than
to
once
mute you.
throughout the
But-
early history of the Earth.
Multiple. So you think there's multiple origins to life? Oh, you're not allowed.
Well,
to
it
say
really
that.
just depends on what
It
you
could have been
mean
happening
by
all
that,
over the
but
Earth.
yes.
At the
No,
same
no,
time.
no, no.
Hey, Bubblegum,
Evolutionists in the
can we
right
chill for a
hand,
second?
right mind.
Bubblegum.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
I wanna kind of prove this is really important. So I found a paper in Nature discussing. Can I post if y'all want to show it and just read like the
please.
first. All right. So basically, I just wanted to read the headline and like the first sentence of the abstract.
I mean, I'm okay with it if AJ is his channel.
Yeah, I just posted it in the private chat. All right, so no, that's not the one I posted. That's the one that Leo posted.
Well, the first one is. The second one is the one that you posted.
Yeah, I posted the Nature article.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is peptide ligitation. Hold on. Go
I'm
back
doing the
up.
best I can, guys.
I'm sorry.
Peptide ligation.
You wanted to read, or you want to show the title, or
Yeah,
just
show
go
the
back?
title just so we know
Okay,
what it's
sorry.
talking about. All right, so this is a Nature article: peptide ligation by chemoselective whatever in water. So it's basically peptides are the bonds between amino acids.
Aminonitrile.
Wait, you don't know how to pronounce the words in the title?
Oh, all right, quiet. All right,
Well,
abstract.
It doesn't really matter.
All right, amide bond formation is one of the most important reactions with chemistry and biology, but there is currently no chemical method of achieving a peptide ligation in water that tolerates all the 20 proteinogenic amino acids at the peptide ligation site. The establishes the biological world predates life's last universal common ancestor, and peptide played an essential part in the origin of life. So what this is essentially admitting is that this kind of bond formation is essential to life, but they have no idea how it happens, and they're trying to figure it out. Because
of course, what science does when we don't know what's going on, we try to figure it out.
All right, so they don't know how one of the most essential aspects of the formation of proteins could have happened, and they're trying to figure it out. That's what's being discussed. And because in water, these things can't happen. So that's kind of, I think that this does prove my point.
I think we should go through the entire abstract up to the last word.
We did, though.
During early evolution.
I don't know if you established that it can't happen in water, though. I don't know if you did that.
Basically, yes, it's established. It can't happen in water because it distills it, basically.
Hold on, let's read it again.
Can I actually read just like the very last part of the abstract? And this is why it's important to actually read further. It says here, 2 essential features enable peptide ligation in water. The reactivity of pK sub AH, I don't know exactly what that is. That is definitely not physics. Of alpha aminonitriles makes them compatible with ligation at neutral pH, and N-acylation stabilizes the peptide product and activates the peptide precursor to biomimetic N to C peptide ligation. Our model unites prebiotic aminonitrile synthesis and biological alpha peptides, suggesting that short N-acyl peptide nitriles were plausible substrates during early evolution. So they're saying we don't understand how this happened. It's something that we know is crucial to this. So here's some potential ways that this might affect, because this is what science does. We acknowledge where we don't understand things, and then we seek to find ways to understand it. I don't understand why people think that's a point against science. That's literally what it's supposed to do.
Now, I was also going to say the very last 2 sentences were very important because it seemed like they're trying to say that this is a possible medium that it could have happened on. That it evolved.
I just find it
because you
fascinating,
guys, no, from your guys' perspective, anything's a possible medium.
Well, hold on. Yeah,
That's literally what the paper is saying, though.
Wait, what?
Like, that's what they're proposing.
No,
It's funny because in the
it's,
middle of the abstract, it says however, a robust mechanism for amino-acyl thioester formation has not been demonstrated. Here, we report a chemoselective, high-yielding alpha aminonitrile ligation which is like joining of like different molecules for certain processes. That's what ligation is. That exploits only prebiotically plausible molecules: hydrogen sulfide, thioacetate, and ferrocyanide, or cyanoacetylene, to yield alpha peptides in water. The ligation is extremely selective for alpha aminonitrile coupling and tolerates all of the 20 proteinogenic amino acid residues.
Yeah, just because you can put chemicals in water doesn't mean that water will allow them to.
Yeah, but when we put
combine.
certain chemicals in water, it does. That's literally what they're outlining here.
No, you're missing the problem, Leo. The problem is that water.
What was the problem in what I outlined?
The problem that dilutes, you're missing the problem.
What problem am I missing?
That the water's going to cause entropy and it's going to dilute these chemicals, so they're not going to organize.
Well, actually, that's not always the case, because usually under chemical reactions, particularly the likes of which that would have been occurring on the extraordinarily dynamic early Earth, are actually going to be probably largely exothermic.
Bloody.
That means they're going to be releasing energy, which means that locally entropy is not going to be going down.
The logistics aren't issues.
It's kind of like how basic physics and chemistry works.
Okay, all right. Well, all right. Let's just say this article is from 2019. So at least up until 2019, this was a big problem. And it looks like this paper is just trying to figure a couple parts of it out. So,
It's just saying you can put chemicals in water. That's all it's saying.
Is that what
that's
it said?
not amazing. It's not amazing.
I don't think that's what it said.
Yeah, that's what it's saying. Like, you can have chemicals in this water.
Yeah, it's saying, hey, we need to get these chemicals in this particular environment. We don't really know how, but actually, if we take these kind of chemicals that we know would have been on the prebiotic Earth, we actually can get these chemicals that we know are the basis for the other chemicals that we need in high yield. That's what this is saying. So what you're trying to do is reduce it to extraordinarily simplistic language to remove the nuances of what's going on, because you don't understand that chemistry and physics includes that, so that people are fooled into thinking that they're not really doing anything like profound here, when this is in fact finding ways to overcome the problems that we have with trying to understand how life got started on the early Earth.
Quite the opposite. Wait. Hey, philosopher. Quite the opposite, Leo. You're trying to make this sound profound and more unique than it actually is.
I don't think it's all that profound, actually.
You're trying to make it sound profound.
I'm not surprised that we found a mechanism, honestly, because obviously there's got to be one. Life is here, so I'm not surprised we found
literally
one.
It's just chemicals and water. There's nothing profound about this or unique about this, Leo.
Oh, shit.
You know what life is, right?
Do you? I know. You guys don't.
Chemicals and water.
No, it's not.
What else?
Okay.
70%
water.
Amy, do you think Kool-Aid is life? It's just chemicals and water.
Oh my god!
No, you realize there are different chemicals, right?
No, you said
we also
chemicals.
drink
The
Kool-Aid
level of
so that we
reduction
can
the
make
bubbles
it
is
into
playing
us.
is hilarious.
Like, what else is there? You're making you made.
Because that's not life. Because you forget. Okay, what do you think life is? We can't make life.
What do you think life is?
What do you mean when you say you can't make life?
Okay, you said chemicals and water. Does it follow that chemicals and water equals life? No, I'm talking about Amy, Leo.
And yes, I would say that's the layperson's definition, because like Leo said, we're 70% water.
Amy,
also say we're
chemicals and water does not follow that life. That's
carbon's
what life
rocks
is.
and cells are 70% water. So life is just rocks and water. That's all it is.
Yes.
Just put some rocks and some water. You got life. Boom. Yeah.
You sure about that, Leo?
It's
you
totally
sure about
that
that?
simplistic and reductive.
Are you sure?
100%.
Okay, let me. Oh yeah, because if I dump some gravel in my sink, that's gonna make life. Yeah, that's what life is.
Okay.
That's
again,
so dumb.
Do you have an answer to what life is?
I know what it is, but it's not naturalistic.
I know what it is, but I can't tell you.
I can tell you.
How do you get to your Sky Daddy,
Okay.
Bubble?
Floor is yours, Bubble. What is life?
Life is a combination of body and spirit.
What is spirit?
Christ on a
There
cock.
we go. Now we're getting somewhere, though.
So what is spirit?
Can you first explain consciousness without a spirit?
Oh, I don't. That's just a question. What is spirit?
Well, spirit is. Let's see. I gotta explain to non-theists. It is. You could say You could say it's a mind, it's consciousness. It is. Let me see. Because I don't want to make a circuit.
It's just higher order sensory awareness.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to say it's just a vibration because then you guys are gonna think.
Well, I don't think that's what it is. But sure, if you think that a spirit is just vibrations, go for it.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to say it's just a vibration, but I'm trying to put it in terms so you guys can understand. So we can start from there if you want to.
I heard mind consciousness, like some people are pointing out in chat, and it's my shtick as well. Only animals we know of are conscious, and I would love to know what a spirit is from vibrations.
That's why I was wondering if, when he says that it's sort of like relatable to mind or consciousness or something like that, if he thought that what spirit is like our sensory awareness, like our ability to be aware.
No, because
okay.
Yeah, because you have to look this from a theist's perspective, and then,
sure.
Well, from there, I can't tell you what spirit is made of, but what
I don't think I asked what it was made of.
Well,
I asked what it is. What are some properties we would predicate about this thing?
Anything about it.
Well, you could say it's a vibration. You could say it's a consciousness. You can say it's a mind.
When you say vibration, what is it that you're describing?
Just for example, what do you think a vibration is in the field?
In what field? Like in the ocean?
The quantum field.
Well, quantum fields don't vibrate.
Okay, let's break it down more simple. When light. You understand light is perturbation, right?
Light?
You understand it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the question is, what is perturbating?
What is perturbing? The potential of the field.
Okay. The field is just vectors and directions. But
those are representations of like the various properties of the
quantum
field.
Quantum field is a made-up concept, by the way.
It is,
but
no.
we can measure them.
Quantum
mechanics. I don't know how you
accurate like mathematics we know about. So
do you trust the scientist priests that they've seen these things?
Seen what things?
No, the fields are abstract.
Well, I don't know what you mean. We say
quantum
fields. We have measured quantum fields. Yes.
Away from vibrations,
no,
I just want to say that they are also very
measurements.
important in my life as well every night. But yes, continue.
No,
yeah,
we assign
measured quantum fields.
No, we assign measurements of the fields.
Well, I don't know what that means. We've measured the fields. We measure them all the time. It's called the Casimir effect. Would you like me to explain what it is?
No, we assign measurement. We don't measure.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Okay, Leo, wait, first, AJ, wait a second. Do you think the field is a thing in and of itself, Leo?
So are you asking me like in some like numinal sense, or are you saying when I talk about the field, am I speaking about the field d'Array? Like, there's two ways I could understand what you're asking.
Do you think it's a physical thing?
Yes, quantum fields are physical.
Okay, if you're gonna say it's physical, the Michelson and Morley experiment now applies to you. So it's
I don't understand what that means. The Michelson-Morley experiment was a very specific experiment. To measure very specific effects that were postulated to be the result of something that was postulated to exist, but no such effects were found.
Okay, can you define the field for me?
What field? I don't know. You keep saying the field. There's a variety of different fields all across physics. What are you talking about specifically?
The quantum field.
Well, which quantum field?
Look, I don't know how many fields.
There's the electron field. There's the quark field. There's the gluon field. There's the Higgs field. Which one?
Do you think the graviton field is real?
Personally, no. I don't think gravitons
Okay,
are.
so let's not play dumb.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's just the Higgs field.
What
Let's
about
go
it?
that. Do you think can you define what that is in and of itself, or give me descriptions of it?
It
Yeah,
gives
it's
us
a
our
field.
mass when we move through it.
It's a field that has a non-zero
What is it?
potential at every point in it.
No, what is it?
It's a distribution of a potential all across space that possesses
not-
a non-zero value at every point.
Do you realize that's not telling me what it is?
It's a field of energy that exists in every region of the universe. Or
What
this
is
body.
energy?
Well, see, that's why I was trying not to say field of energy. Because energy is like not really like a thing. It's more like a result of the ways that we quantify the evolution.
Do you all think it's the Holy Spirit that's in the matter and making it like vibrate? Do you think that's what it is?
Yeah, I'm trying to get there, but Leo doesn't.
I got something that vibrates.
Yeah,
You got a dildo? I don't need to know. I don't need to know about your dildos, man.
It's my cell phone.
Oh, okay.
Why is your mind in the gutter, you pervert?
I blame Amy.
But no, the Higgs field is something that when we move through it, the particles interact with it that have a given mass in them. And because this field sort of, drags on these certain molecules, that's what gives us our mass. I'm probably butchering this, but, it's a.
It sounds to me like something like these scientists got high and made this up. It's not like your average just druggie doing it. It's like scientists.
Sorry, it's a little more complicated than.
It's more like one guy's been researching it since the 60s and they found it. So
yeah.
Wait.
Do you really think? All right, let me ask you a question. Do you really think when they have these atom smashers and these molecular machines and they smash them in these giant explosions that they have equipment that can detect these subatomic particles at such a high level of accuracy? Do you really think that?
Yes.
Oh, I feel sorry for you then.
But can I ask?
I mean, we detected gravitational waves.
But wait, tell me which sounds more like a fever dream on drugs. What they were just talking about, or a rabbi somewhere in Iron Age Palestine got murdered, and after he had 72 hours of decomposition, flesh rotting off the bone, he arose from the dead. And you would know this if he ever, came back and talked, but his body seems to be MIA. And so we got nada. Which one sounds more like a mythological story? Or a fever dream on drugs, whichever one is.
Evolving from mud puddles.
What?
That's a fever dream.
Well,
yeah, it is. I would agree.
When you accept the premise of the existence of God, then miracles seem much more reasonable.
You have to drink the Kool-Aid first.
I don't think so, actually. I think that somebody believing in God, like their priors might change and they might become more accepting of the concept, but I don't think belief in God makes the concept more coherent.
But a God could raise someone from the dead, right? Like a God could part the Red Sea or something like that.
I think that if somebody was going to be raised from the dead in the natural world, then that would just be a feature of the natural world that this God built into it.
How long have they been dead, though?
I mean, it's not logically impossible. I'm not going to say there's some sort of logical.
Okay.
Of course, logically, yes.
Back
I mean,
been
God
for
could
a minute or two, but.
Okay.
Well, I think even logically, a body that's been dead for 5 years could be brought back by God. There's no logical contradiction there.
Yeah, I mean, if the gods can make the whole universe, making a body come back to life, that would be a drop in the bucket.
God, I will bitch slap God.
Bitch slap
God. Slap it with something else.
Oh boy.
You all have to admit if God,
maybe.
Hold on, if you all have to admit if God did exist, he would have to be a very powerful and incomprehensible being, and you would
very powerful, very magical sky dad.
I have to just imagine he would just be erect constantly.
Well, I mean, I do agree he would have to be quite powerful, and I think that that's not actually a positive thing for the Christian. I think that raises some very interesting questions.
Well, I would also point out that not only would I agree with Leophilius, I think that it could be powerful while still being comprehensible. And then I think we see these in mythological and fiction. I cannot understand for the life of me why that one superpower would mean God is real. Like it normally goes, Jesus came back from the dead, therefore God. And that's a broken syllogism, but that's what we often get. And there's really no connection between a guy coming back. You could have lots of random superpowers. Like it could have been that the God only was able to he was able to resurrect all sorts of plant life around him, and then also water powers. He was able to have, we could all think of a million different
could God make anime girls real?
Oh, the true questions come to
actually
light.
probably could.
That's what I'm concerned about.
No. Have you seen some of those TikTokers that look like anime or Disney animation?
I hate TikTok. I hate the
I've
fact
been
that
to
I
a
have
cosplay convention.
Well,
Does that
no,
count?
I'm not. No, like I'm not sure if you've seen some of these TikTokers that look like Disney-like in their faces.
But I want to highlight this point. I want you to know what you're up against. If God exists, it's the being that created the universe. So I mean,
a big ol' if.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, it's going to depend on what one's particular conception of God. There might be people who think that God and the universe have like just coexisted both eternally.
And I would also separate out, it does actually, there's multiple types of gods. I know that at this point, the Abrahamic gods try to only refer to what they call the big G gods. However, I would also separate out just in superpowers. Jesus over here, a man, has powers that we would, think of like supermen. God, a universe creator, that is a very specific thing.
But if God created the universe, who created God?
Dun, dun, dun. And funny enough, they will always say, well, that's an unfair question. Even though they say the same thing with the multiverse.
No, we just think it's a childish question.
Okay, but
You're
that's
a
how...
childish question.
I don't think it's childish, but I don't think it's a meaningful question to ask.
Well, I agree. In the same way, it's like asking what came before the Big Bang. We could say, Bubble, you could say that's a childish question.
No, that's a legitimate question because we know it had a beginning. That's why it's a legitimate question.
I agree.
What do you mean by beginning?
Using his language.
Yeah.
You don't think the Big Bang implies a beginning?
Well, we know
we've
God
gone
had a beginning.
prior to the
We
Big
know.
Bang, so I don't understand what makes you think the Big Bang is like the beginning when we've gone before it. So.
Wait, did you just claim we know what's before the Big Bang?
I said we've gone before the Big Bang, yes. It'd be called inflation.
Well, you have a lot of trust in your scientist priests.
Well, no, I have a lot of trust in the empirical data that we've received and have been understanding better and better over like 70 years.
Empirical data about before the beginning of the universe. And you know, there was just a big discussion in the scientific community because of this telescope about whether the Big Bang even really happened at all. I don't know if you
actually, no, there's not.
Yeah,
some guy, what is it, Brian Lerner or something like that?
Eric Lerner. It's called Eric
there it
Lerner.
is.
I feel like I disagree with you on this one, Leo. I do.
On what?
The idea that we have sort of empirical data before the Big Bang, because I would suggest that before we have empirical data up to the Planck time, but after that, I don't.
We haven't even gone back that
far. Wait, empirical means directly observable, so we don't have empirical data before like a few thousand years.
Literally look in telescopes and see back in time to see it.
We can look in the cosmic microwave background at the fluctuations in it. Those pretty much tell us the inflation.
All we can see is faraway objects. We don't know when they were created. We don't know how close it was to the origin of the universe or anything like that.
But we do.
Ace philosophy, when you make statements like that, they remind me of rhetoric statements that I hear from creationists. But where do you get this from?
Wait, Amy,
my statement is self-confirming. When you point a telescope into deep space and you take a picture, all you have is a picture of deep space. You don't have a picture of You can't tell me.
You're literally looking back in time. You're looking back.
I understand that because of the distance, like traveling over distance. But you don't.
So
you
what's
can't.
the problem?
Because
we can see back from the beginning.
All you have is that picture. You don't
Yeah,
have.
but if we're looking back in time, then doesn't that just entail that we're learning about the history of the universe, particularly when we can look back billions of years?
That place has been in existence before that.
Well, yeah, we do.
If you take a picture of a place in space a billion light years away, yes, it's a billion-year-old picture. But how long has that billion-year-old part of space been in existence? You don't know.
No, we do know because we can track the rate of expansion of the universe, and we can.
Well, the rate of expansion is increasing.
Yes, but we know the rate of increasing expansion too. It's the Hubble constant.
You realize that redshift, Hubble expansion, these are theories that were developed decades ago, and when the technology was not nearly as developed.
And we just further confirmed them and refined the models today.
Einstein developed this theories 100 years ago. They were confirmed by gravitational waves.
It's actually empirical.
I would argue
gravitational waves are still on the question.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
They've been absolutely 100% confirmed.
No, they haven't because.
No, they have.
Well, not to
Jordan
you, but
sinks
anybody
back,
who knows what
makes
they're
a shot.
about,
Game 6, Bulls. It's done. Game over.
No.
It's funny because we got the same signal at two different laser interferometers from the same position in the sky, and from the same distance away. They looked almost identical.
No, here's the reason they don't take that credit anymore, because they found noise which gave the same kind of signal. So
what was that?
Well, it was just noise in the background. That wasn't.
Yeah, but what caused that noise?
Who knows? It could have just been an earthquake.
So then how do they know there was noise if they don't know that there was like a source for it?
That's the thing. It's just.
And how can they identify it as noise?
No,
in order to identify it as noise, they'd have to know what the source was to produce it. You just said they don't know what the source is, so how can they know that there's noise? Yeah, noise from where?
LIGO. These observatories use mirrors that are spaced 4 kilometers apart, and they're capable of detecting a change of less than 1/10,000th the charge diameter of a proton. That's
but noise.
But accurate they are.
They found noise that also
isolate noise where they know it's not gravitational waves. They know how to isolate that and say this isn't what we're looking for. They know.
That's the thing. They found noise that produced the same outcome.
What is this noise? Keep saying noise. What do you mean? What do you mean? Because the lasers are in vacuum chambers. Do you even know how laser interference? Can you explain how LIGO works?
Let's see. Basically, what AJ said, they do use it's like an L-shaped mirrors, and they bounce them back and forth, and then they have and they have 2 of them. I forget what the other one is. I think
they have one in Washington, and they have one in I think Louisiana or by there.
And then there's one in Italy and one in Japan.
Yeah, and they detected that identical signal, even though they're like
they compare them. Apart. Yeah, they compare them, but it turns out there was noise that also had the same
what was
same
this
patterns.
Noise?
Well, I don't know. They
ask you for
if you don't know what the noise was, then you can't say that it was noise.
Well, no, they said it was noise. I'm not saying it was noise.
I doubt that.
No, they found
gravitational
waves. You're wrong on that.
No, the thing, they quote unquote found gravitational waves, but they also found noise that had the same pattern as the gravitational waves.
Noise is irrelevant.
So it can't.
No. They know the difference. They know.
That means it can't be. This really can't be. You can't really take this as total certainty.
Well, I'm gonna.
It's funny because the signals
on this then.
The signals are so precise that we actually can identify the point of the actual merger of the black holes as well as the ring down that follows the merger event.
LIGO is some of the most accurate scientific equipment in the entire world. It's like basically up there with the Large Hadron Collider in terms of the level of science that they're doing.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm just saying it's not a certain thing.
What's irrelevant noise, and they can tell what's a historic scientific data find of gravitational waves, which confirms Einstein's theories 100 years later.
Gravitational waves haven't been confirmed. They're still.
They have though.
No, they haven't.
We're just gonna have to agree to disagree that you're wrong.
That I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
You are.
Are you saying
the entire physics community disagrees with you?
No. This was literally from No, this was literally from LIGO themselves. They said
Well, I
we found
demand
no.
you provide a source. Then I demand
I
you.
didn't bring
Or
it with me.
you didn't
Of course
bring it
not.
with you. We're on the internet.
Why would I? Well,
You don't
it's
have to have
not
it
like
in your
I'm.
back
Yeah,
pocket. I
it's
will
not like I'm
challenge you to a
expecting
duel.
this topic.
I will pull off my glove and
AJ,
slap you, and we will
he
use
wasn't
pistols at
prepared for
dawn if you
that.
don't provide a source.
No,
Yeah, he
why would
wasn't
I
prepared
bring?
for that, AJ.
Why would I even be prepared for that?
Well, I mean, if you're not prepared, then don't make audacious claims.
It's not an
Don't go
official
shooting
site.
your
This is
mouth
from
off.
LIGO themselves.
Then link me to this
I can
thing
link it.
from LIGO.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can
then
go.
post the link in private chat. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, I can log off. It'll take me a while to find it, but I can find
take
it
him a
for
while.
you.
I can wait. I can wait. I
Wow.
got all day, bro. I'm
mean-
back. I got a 6-pack of Mountain Dew, bro. I'm set. I got frozen.
It's funny
pizzas.
because-
I mean, I got pizza rolls. I got Totino's, dude. I can wait.
A guide to LIGO Virgo detector noise and extraction of transient gravitational wave signals from IOP Science, the Institute of Physics, one of the most prestigious physics institutions on the planet.
Could you post that link, Leo?
Yeah.
Please? Thank you. Thank you. You were such a nice.
Seems
guy.
we
You know
can
that.
still pick out transient gravitational. Isn't that funny? Institute of Physics.
Oh, you can pick out the things that aren't real. Huh.
And you know what the funny thing is? The amount of authors on this is, oh Jesus frickin' good. Like what? That's got to be like a couple hundred.
Yeah, they're dumb though. Those guys are dumb.
They don't know what they're talking about. AJ.
None of them know anything close to what Bubbles knows.
Leo, these are people who spent their entire lives studying in their field.
Dude, I
Come
could
on.
build a LIGO in my backyard, bro. Trust me, I could build one, dude, and it'll be even more fucking
You even
sick
lift though?
Oh my god.
than the real one, dude. I got a couple mirrors and duct tape and like super glue, and the most important thing is I have confidence in myself. That's what you don't understand. I'm sorry, P-Town. I'm sorry I couldn't add you earlier. How are you doing?
Hey.
Can you hear me? Thank you. Say something, please.
Yeah, no,
Welcome aboard.
thanks. No problem. I had to put my little one down anyway. And speaking of that, if she wakes up, I got to run.
Oh, that's cute. You're sounds like a good parent.
Well, do we lose the other Christian guy?
Ace
Yeah, I
philosophy,
think
yeah.
so.
Okay.
He did. He was
Well,
fun though.
You got
Night
me now.
East philosophy.
Um,
Welcome aboard, P-Town.
So you are a Christian. Like, are you a theist? Are you a creationist, Buddhist, Jainist, nudist? What are you?
Well, I'm a former atheist, actually quite a vocal one, if it interests you. So I think this is really cool. I don't
We
get
can
to
get
talk
you
to
back.
Former atheist. What are you now then?
I am a Christian man now.
Okay. Did you go to church last Sunday? Did you?
Did I go to church
Yeah.
last Sunday? Let me think.
God's keeping track.
Well, speaking of it, it's hard for me to like a lot of churches. What I do love is the Bible, though.
Why do you like the Bible?
Because,
It's
well,
kinda
it took a
boring.
little while, but once I discovered the integrity of its design and how it proves itself, that God made that.
How does it prove itself, though? Can you
That's a long
elaborate?
discussion.
You know what's funny is,
That's-
according to Gödel's second incompleteness system, any formalized axiomatic system that is capable of proving all of its own axioms cannot be consistent. Now, I'm not saying that you're saying the Bible is a formal axiomatized system, but I question anything that is claimed to be capable of completely proving itself.
Those are some fancy words that I have no idea what they mean.
Yeah,
but
that's what I tell Leo
I
every
understand
time.
your point, and I can see where you're coming from. And that's what I was just answering your question. I was surprised by it, honestly. That was, it happened like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay,
when I finally started reading it myself. Yeah.
Okay, well, you're a parent. I'm going to challenge you on something. So the Bible has a story where a man is told by God that he needs to kill his own son, Isaac and Abraham. And he goes to the point of basically creating a sort of like table or whatever, where he's actually getting ready to tie Isaac down. He's got a knife where he's ready to do it because God told him to do it. And this man is going to do what God says. And I mean, do you find that story troubling as a parent?
Before I studied the Bible, I found that story very troubling. and now it's one of my most favorite parts of the Bible.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, what would you
Would you like me to explain it?
Can I, before you do, can I just interject?
Yeah, you go ahead, Amy.
Well, we've done a specific Bible study on that set of chapters, and what I have found in religion is it has this sick way of turning the worst stories into something good. It somehow kind of makes it like, but don't you see? That's how much he loved God. And he didn't.
This is Bible stuff. I'm just gonna hop out.
Yeah, well, I would like, I actually would really like to talk about the science stuff. As a former atheist, I don't get a chance to really talk about that with atheists. But to answer your question, Amy, or to comment on what you're saying, I understand what you're talking about and how it can affect how it looks. I do understand that.
It doesn't look good to us, I'll say that.
Right, but what that story, as an example, did for me, because as a former atheist, I still didn't like the Bible, right? Or even if after I liked the Bible, I didn't like the idea. I struggled with the idea of Jesus, to be honest with you. I still to this day don't even like, I prefer to say Yeshua, because that's how deep it resonates, just the name Jesus, right? I mean, as an atheist, maybe you can relate, right? So what, the patterns and it's called the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. The patterns in that story are so deep and quite amazing. In fact, I named my daughter after a little bit of that book, in a way. Her name's Abigail, which means, Abba, Gail, so father's joy. And there's...
Can I interrupt you again?
Sure.
So, God comes to you right now in the middle of the night and says, listen, I need to test your faith. It has come for sacrifices to be made, and I need you to go to the highest point that you can find and take your daughter and make a sacrifice in my name.
For my glory.
Would you do
I'd
it?
like to believe that I could do that. And that's why Abraham's used as an example of a measure of faith. But keep in mind, look at all the times he challenged God up to that point, right?
But
when he was negotiating with God before that.
I don't think you would be able to do it, though.
I don't think you would.
I like, and that's why I said I don't think I could. I like to believe I could.
That sentence is what kills me. Is you think there's something wrong with you not able to kill your daughter, where you're like, oh, I just don't think I'd be strong enough. It's like, no, you would be sane enough not to kill your own daughter.
I don't understand why you can't say no, God. I'm not going to do that. Why is it that you just can't say no?
Exactly.
That's
you're not allowed to disobey God.
Well,
I mean, even if the moral faculties he's gifted you with have led him to believe that a command he's just giving you isn't something you should do. Which is also an interesting conundrum in and of itself.
So if you look at that story, though, I think that Abraham knew, because God promised Abraham that his descendants were going to follow that line. So he knew that God had an issue. One, either he was going to resurrect Isaac or he was going to intervene. And I don't
think that makes it okay, though. I don't.
Going all the way up to the altar and
the resurrection.
I understand where you're coming from, and it was a long, I was a Christian for a while until I really studied it, and then once I became a Christian, now I see how beautiful the story is and how it patterns. Because now if you look at it from a Christian perspective, there was another father, right, that sacrificed his son for us. And it takes that crazy, I know how crazy that sounds, right? It's how crazy that sounds. So you take an extreme story that happened thousands of years before that also doesn't make sense, right?
But can I push
and you put them
further
together
on
and they
that,
make
P-Town?
sense a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say not only does it not make sense, I would say it's evil. I would actually say that a God or anyone that would murder their own child in replacement of anyone's bad doings I would say that is an evil being.
Are we talking about
I'm-
Jesus and God in this example?
I would
think he
say
is.
yes to both, I
Right.
guess, because. But I would also say the same to Isaac. We
Well,
could
that
just
didn't
do
end
it
up
across
happening.
the board. I would
Right.
say.
Well, just for your viewers, because I didn't even know this
Sure.
as an atheist. Isaac doesn't get killed by his dad. Just for
Yeah,
the
we
viewers,
know that.
right?
No,
Okay.
I know.
I didn't know
wanted
that as
to
an
say
atheist,
something.
and that's yeah.
And
wanted to
that's
mention
why the apologetic it always comes across as, don't you see how lovely it is? It was a test of faith, and then God was always going to be the good guy. But the theists seem to ignore, or the Christians seem to ignore specifically, that God kills people's sons often, and he does it all the time. And so maybe that one time the kid was able to escape the altar, but this seems to be not only a common practice, but a revered. I mean, this is kind of the good news of the gospel, is that we killed someone's son. God, person, doesn't really matter. We killed someone's child so that some bad deed that we did ourselves can be undone.
Yeah, and
I don't think
really quick
Jesus
if I can.
condones I don't think
Me
God
after you,
condones child sacrifice, but it's the
Well,
patterns.
he literally did though. So okay, really quickly.
Sure.
A second ago, I think you said that it was possible that even if Abraham did stab Isaac in the throat with a big knife, that God would resurrect him. But see, I don't think that really makes it okay. And I'm going to steal an argument from Cosmic Skeptic here, where he talks about that there is a club in Oxford called the Bullingdon Club. And these guys were rich English hooligans that would go to fancy restaurants, eat there, and then completely fucking trash the place, destroy it. But then they would throw huge wads of cash at the owner of the restaurant before they left. Way, way more money than what was worth the amount of damage they actually did. So enough to fix what they had done, plus way more in interest. But they still wronged the guy. So I think Abraham and Isaac especially have still been wronged, even if he resurrects him. You know what I mean? Even if he gives him another child, it's still not okay that he basically made this guy kill his child. It's still not.
I completely agree with you, and and that's why.
Can I ask a quick question?
Even the Jewish people, right? The whole idea of the story is completely ludicrous, right? I agree with you, and that's why if you talk to I don't know, Jewish priests or rabbis or whatever they're called, a lot of them would say you can't take this serious. Well, I do take the Bible serious, and that's why Jesus and God, the way it patterns, now it makes sense. It's the two together that makes sense. The Jews don't have an answer, but the Christians do. And
go ahead, James. If you would.
But I just want to just let you guys know.
Thank you, Ian.
I'm not a very good philosopher, but I do love talking about the science behind the stuff. If we want to talk about that.
I mean, I
had a quick question.
Well, James has been waiting. I think James go and then Leo go.
Well, I just want to say that this whole thing of, this wonderful thing that God did for us and how beautiful it is. But I mean, you have to remember, God is the one who set all this up to begin with. He's the one who defined right and wrong based on his arbitrary parameters. He decided to hold us to that standard, but make us so that we had a different nature than him, so we wouldn't have to do what he wants us to do, but he'll punish us if we don't. And then, of course, people break the rules. He condemns everybody. And then he himself rides to the rescue and then demands that we spend eternity thanking for us. God has taken every human being alive. He throws us all on a boat. He sails us out to the middle of the ocean. He throws everybody off the boat. And he throws a few life preservers overboard so that maybe 5 or 10% of the people can actually get one. And then the people that get one, he pulls them back on deck and he says, "Oh, I just saved you guys. Now you need to spend eternity thanking me. Look at that. I could have let you drown." Well, I mean, yeah, but he's also the one who caused all these problems to begin with for his own glory, just so he can come to the rescue, I guess.
Sounds crazy, doesn't it?
it does sound crazy. I think it actually is crazy.
Right. But you're also talking to somebody who thought the same. And
No.
now,
but you haven't justified why you made that change, though. You really haven't. You just said, "Oh, I think it's beautiful now."
Well, I don't have all the time
it's
to.
Awesome, dude. I think it's fucking cool.
I don't have all the time, and I'm to talk about the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, and all the patterns.
I don't know.
I would love to. I could.
I don't see anything beautiful about it. I think it's screwed up.
Sure, and that's why sometimes the beauty in it is in the apparent contradictions as well, and that was fascinating for me.
Well, I think beauty is a subjective thing anyway. So,
do you know what? Well, do you know what the word love means?
Can I ask my question though? I did want to ask you a question.
I'll try to answer them all.
Go ahead, Leo.
It was related to something that Amy said about for punishing somebody for what somebody else did. So what do you think of the story of Adam and Eve? Do you think there literally was an Adam and an Eve in a literal Garden of Eden, or do you think the story is largely metaphorical?
And to Steve.
Are you was that to me or to someone else?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's something I still kind of struggle with in a certain and from because when you think about it, it's kind of cartoony, right?
You kind of have to tackle that one first, though, if you're gonna be a Christian.
Sure, absolutely. But even now, you look at and you read the Bible and you think of it in a cartoony way, right?
Yeah, you read it and you're like, man, this is bullshit.
Right.
This is
good dope.
Kind of crazy. Okay. The reason why I do take it literally is because, again, the Bible has demonstrated itself divine to me, and in a provable fashion, as far as I can define proof. And that you will deny, but I'm just saying it's something that I've seen, and I've worked hard to study and understand it. It's not something I can describe and explain right away. I can give examples, but that's the reason why I do believe it literal. And a lot of that the Adam and Eve story has a huge impact on how I am or how I run my household and the relationship with my wife. I look at it and I think
you make her wear leave bikinis.
I did buy a bikini on my last work trip for her, but then some other girl stole it, I think.
Got him
at the bar. But yeah, yeah, that's another story.
I do want to get clear here. You are saying you do take the story of Adam and Eve literally.
I do, because that's what the Bible says. Yes.
Okay. So a follow-up question to that: do you think that the commission of the original sin was done by Eve eating the fruit or Adam eating the fruit?
So let me answer your question by continuing what I was going to say when it comes to my marriage with my wife. I defer to her a lot, right? So even though I'm the head of the household, she gets to make a lot of the decisions. So for example, with Adam and Eve, I believe that Eve was tricked. She was deceived, right? And then Adam chose to eat the fruit afterwards, knowing that he would be, death would come into the world and he would die. He gave his life willingly for her. And that's what I believe, just as Christ gave his life willingly for us. And so in a lot of the things that I do, I put her first, even though I'm the father of the household. And that's what I mean.
I really struggle with this when you're saying that you both take Genesis literally, but you're also kind of struggling to understand it and working on understanding it. Like, to me, that doesn't mesh.
Well, imagine this well, that's not quite what I said. What I'm saying is, now looking, when I think about the story, I still have that picture book, comic book, coloring book, whatever you want to call it, image still in my brain from when I was an atheist.
The original sin was committed by Adam, not Eve?
No, Eve, and then Adam ate of the fruit too.
After, but it was the first one. It was Eve that
Eve was deceived.
One.
Yeah.
So the fall still would have happened even if Adam
when she ate the fruit, was that original sin? Is that when original sin came into the world?
Well, when people talk about the original sin, I don't really know what people are talking about specifically, because I don't really see Someone
The
say
first
original sin in the Bible, right?
You said Adam knew death would come into the world, though. That's
right,
that's what
exactly. So
original sin is,
God
right?
told
It's death.
Adam, like, don't eat of this or you're gonna
Yeah, but
freaking
then
die.
he did.
But he didn't tell Eve that.
Yeah, so
So-
then it's Adam. If it's
Mhm.
Adam eating the fruit that brought sin into the world, that was the original sin.
Maybe,
Can I
but I
also
don't know.
just
I'm not a philosophical, dude.
Well, sure,
when
but
it
I'm
comes
just
to that.
curious
You're
if
like-
you think
I don't
that
even know what
Adam disobeying God and eating the fruit is what brought sin into the world. That's where sin started, which is why it's
And I
often
when
also
people
wanna
say
have a
that, I think they're
solidifying
referring
point.
to Adam and Eve as one. I think that there's a word like.
Well, but I
specific-
mean, if
sometimes
God didn't
people
tell
refer to
Eve
Adam.
not
yeah.
to eat of the fruit, I don't understand how it could be wrong then for her to do something that she wouldn't have knowledge of the rightness or wrongness of.
I take that back. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head if God told Eve or not. I don't think it's mentioned, but I do know that Adam.
She argued
here,
with the snake about it. She
let
told
me
the
finish
broader
for
point-
one
the broader-
second.
You take it literally,
So
though.
she knew.
Let me finish for 1 second, okay? Adam literally watched animals being created and he named them. Eve didn't get to see stuff created by God. So I think in that sense, Adam knew, like, he means business. Like, if I eat this fruit, I'm going to die, right? So whether or not Eve was told,
Didn't die.
right, there's a different level to it for Adam versus Eve.
But can I ask
so
you
There's
a
a more-
very important
there's a more
question,
measure of
which is,
faith
do you
for Eve.
actually
Mhm.
think that this literally happened? Do you think this
He
is
said
a
yes.
real story?
Yeah,
Well,
he does.
then I want to follow
That's why
up
I'm
with-
running down this line of questioning.
Well, because if you do, you said you were a science guy or you're into the science. Just continuing to follow that, do you believe that a woman, the original woman, came from a rib?
Well, yeah, I believe the Bible. I take the Bible very literally. Yes, I mean God took a rib from Adam, and that's what the Bible says. So
Well,
that's
I
what I
guess-
believe.
That's a little off topic. You said that Adam knew that eating the fruit was going to bring sin into the world. He knew
That he was
that
going to
would happen.
die. That he was going to die. Yeah.
That death, sin
how we would have a
would come
concept of
come
death,
into the world via his disobeying God, right?
That he was going to die. I don't know if sin was.
Yeah,
brought
but
into
like
being.
literally, almost every Christian says that when they say that death, like that this is like a spiritual death, it's sin that is what was brought into the world by Adam doing this. I'm just wondering if you agree
Well,
with all of
you called it the original sin, and I
that's the
guess
word
I will
Christian-
say it was the first sin. Sure.
Yeah, and so, but what I want to get clarity on is if you because it sounded like you were saying that Adam knew that he would be disobeying God, and he knew the consequences of doing so before he did it. Am I clear there? Was that what you said?
Yes, he did it because he did. Well, again,
okay, so
Adam.
why did he
finish.
do
Adam.
it?
Adam did it. I believe, and this is my interpretation, that Eve was deceived, and then Adam did it because he didn't want to spend eternity without his wife. And that he said, and he was basically telling God, possibly, hey man, you're going to have to take me too, because I know Eve. He knew that Eve was going to die. Right, he hadn't sinned yet. He didn't know he was going to die.
So he
was willing to die for her.
Really quickly, though, I just want to read this verse from Romans chapter 5:12. It says, "Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all sinned." So that's original sin.
Sure, and right there, what he's trying to explain, he's trying to make the pattern. Actually, probably said it a lot better than I can say it, but yeah, that there's a pattern here between what Christ did for us, and then that's an example.
So Adam had reasons.
It's one of
for
the
doing
patterns.
It. Adam had reasons for doing it.
Guys, I got to read this super chat. So thank you to Grungevaldi Gurnison for $10. Thank you guys. You guys have been very generous on this stream, so thank you. It says, for the creationists, do you believe the Bible contains metaphors? And if so, how can one determine what is metaphor and what is literal? Oh, yep, Mark, I will read your question after this one. Sorry, I did not realize, but let's answer that one. And then
is that me? Am I the only?
Yes, you are the creationist.
Okay. Sure. So one of my favorite guys is Chuck Missler, and he had this saying that came to him at night once, and I think it was, "Metaphors reign, where mysteries reside. And I kind of liked it. I don't even know exactly what it means, but what it means to me is I believe that so again, every time I study the Bible, the more literal I take it, the more that is revealed.
Oh.
And so for me, I'm unique as an example, which originally I wanted to call and talk about sciencey stuff.
Well, we can.
Right.
We're here all night.
Well, and I also
Can I finish
wanted
my
to
line of
talk
If I could
about-
finish my sentence.
Leo was trying to go down a long.
Did you answer Grunwaldi's question?
Well, it's actually not that long.
You can, Leo, but I just want to make sure this guy's question gets answered because I mean he's sent $10, you know. But ask your question, Leo, and we will come back to this.
No, it's fine. If you wanted to do super chat first, that's fine.
No, I read it. I don't know. Did you answer that question, P-Town? I was kind of not listening.
Well, it's about metaphors. I think that there's a lot of different types of metaphors out there, and sometimes they can reveal things that
the Bible has metaphors.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different analogies and different things in there. Yeah, some of them.
Is there a way that you determine what's a metaphor and what's literal? With the difference between.
Sometimes it can be literal and metaphorical too.
How do you know the difference?
Well, sometimes the Bible speaks to us all differently, and that's metaphorical. For me, though, when I interpret some scripture literally, it reveals things, you know, too.
Okay, well,
we're
Leo,
speaking very philosophically here.
I mean, you can go ahead, Leo. Grunwaldi, I think that's the best you're gonna get. Thank you for
And
that.
then after them, I just want to ask him a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So P-Town, is it? I can't. The names. I don't know why StreamYard has does that. It's so Adam had reasons for eating the fruit. Then it sounds like you're saying.
Well, he didn't. I'm guessing his wife was deceived, and he knew that she was going to die because that's what God said. And he ate. He chose. He willingly ate of the fruit, knowing that he would die too. That's all I know.
And he did that. He did that because he had reasons for doing that, right? That's what it sounds like you're saying. And those reasons had to do with like Eve and all that stuff.
You know, I couldn't tell you what was in his brain.
Honestly, well, I'm not asking you for what the reasons were specifically. I'm just asking if there were any. If he had reasons.
I speculate that he was challenging God in a way and say, "Hey, man, if you're going to take her, you're going to take me too." And that's just speculation. That's my.
So then that was his reason for doing it.
And I could be wrong. I think that was the primary reason. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe
but that wasn't the right
nature.
thing to do, was it? The right thing to do would have been to obey God and not eat the fruit, correct?
All right. Yeah.
So Adam somehow.
Well, no, actually, sorry, you got me. I'm a little tired. I don't know what the right thing would be to do there. I think that
isn't the right thing to do to obey God? You don't think that the right thing to do is to obey God in every instance?
Well, I see where you're going with this logic and trying to pin me into a corner.
Well, that's not
what I think of. What I think of when it comes to this as an example, I think of my wife, and I'd be willing to give my life. Is that the right thing to do? Is that what God would want of me? I don't know. My first thought would be my wife.
Well, it just seems that if Adam's eating the fruit brought a sin into the world, then obviously it was not the right thing to do in that situation. But if Adam deduced that he should do something else for a variety of reasons, Adam's going to think that other thing, that eating the fruit, is the right thing to do. And it seems in that instance that what God did is God created a situation where Adam would not have been capable, where Adam is withheld from information that allows him to determine and come to the conclusion of what the right thing to do in the situation was. But then God is punishing Adam for that. And that seems really bizarre that a maximally powerful, morally perfect agent would withhold information from an agent that it created such that it does not come to the right decision and then punish it for that. So it seems that there's a tension here in the Christian worldview for anyone who takes the story of Adam and Eve seriously.
Oh, okay. I gotta make sure I ask more. question too.
Every time I talk to an atheist, and this is why I was excited to come to this channel, by the way, is we always get on this philosophical discussion. I understand where you're coming from, but I have a different view now. And do I have the answer for you? No. Why? Because I'm not God. Why did I create that? Why did God make this whole ensemble story that is completely illogical yet mystifyingly beautiful? Why did he make it so it's a choice for people to discover him? I don't know. I'm not God. But I wanted to come here and talk about science, but we can keep talking about something I'm not.
I actually would like to as well. I just
but I just have to.
And I don't mean to raise my voice. I'm sorry.
No, and I'm done whenever Amy wants to.
I just have to make sure that the people who sent money that I asked their questions. So Mark asked to you, P Town, that I'm going to ask this one, then we'll do Amy, and then I promise we'll get onto the science because I think you've been a really good sport, and I think you seem like a nice person, and your heart's in the right place. So I want to be. I want to do that. So it says God killed Job's children in a dare and didn't bring them back. Is that okay?
Well, it wasn't God that did it. It was Satan. That's one of my favorite books, by the way, because of how sciencey it is. And yes, it's kind of messed up.
Mark, I told you.
It's kind of messed up how God let the devil do it.
I agree.
I do. I agree. At the end, he ended up getting twice as many children, and which means here's what's interesting. He ended up getting the same number of children at the end.
But they're not the same children. They're different children.
Yeah, different children. But here, here's something fun and interesting. Okay, at the end, he got twice as much as he had before, but he only got just as many children as he had before, which implies that his children were probably in heaven. This is what I'm guessing because the math.
Okay.
And that was pretty cool to me because that was one of his biggest worries was his children. Where did they go? And through the whole dialogue.
Okay. And I hate to have to say this, but if somebody were to kill Abigail, but God gave you a new child afterwards, I don't think that you would consider that to be okay or a situation that was righted. You know what I mean? Because
same with your wife. Kills your wife but gives you like a newer, hotter wife, a younger, hotter wife. That doesn't somehow make it okay.
I agree with you guys, and I'm not God. I don't know how to answer that question, but I do think that that book is profoundly cool.
I think it's disgusting.
Does anybody might want to jump out for a second so I can add Bird?
I'm in here.
Oh, you are?
Bird's here. Yeah, I'm in here.
You are? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Amy wanted to.
Can I?
Never mind then.
I just wanted to do a few different questions just to test the worldview of theology meets science. You said you were a science guy. I want to go back to this Adam and Eve story if it were literal. Because
really
it
quickly,
implies...
Sorry, Amy. John Rapp. Thank you for the $2 from John Rapp. And he said, no credible science in the Bible. None. Why? Go ahead, Amy. Just had to read that.
Well,
can I answer that one or am I...
Yes, in fact, I got all time right back over you, P-Town, and then we'll go down for a few.
Okay, so
this is science,
between trying to put my daughter down, there was a few things you guys talked about. I think it's called abiogenesis, right? Mm-hmm. Is that where life comes from nothing?
No.
No.
Is that not true?
It's
the origin of life.
No, it's
right.
the result of a series of geochemical
I don't know the definitions. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Well, to answer the question, there's so much science. There is so much science in the Bible.
There's none.
And that's what I love about the Bible the most.
There's literally none.
Also, abiogenesis very specifically is how life arose from non-life.
Well, how we think. We're not 100% certain on it.
I mean, if you count people drowning as science, there's a ton of science in the Bible.
You know what's funny from a Christian perspective? How blasphemy abiogenesis is. Like
nice. Well, I mean,
it's just kind of like in your face,
Christian. In most of our book is a good thing.
Beginning.
Oh, Genesis. Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Great anime. But Pete, what we were talking about Adam and Eve, and it has scientific implications.
Why can't we talk about Adam and Steve though?
I know, right? with that, why not Adam, Eve, and Steve?
I mean, that is the elephant in the room, Amy.
Oh my, I
mean,
know.
I didn't bring it up, but I'm just saying.
I know I'm fat, AJ, but that was mean. I know I'm fat, okay?
Yeah, you're more of a hippo.
No, that's true. That's true.
But it means that men, first of all, were created before women. Would you agree? P-Town?
Uh-oh.
Am I muted?
No.
Oh, there you are.
No, we can hear you.
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry.
Did God smite him?
Adam was created before Eve. Did God smite me? Adam was created before Eve. Yeah.
Now, do you believe that is a theological or a scientific position?
It just says that he made Adam, and then he's like, it's not good for Adam to be alone.
Uh-oh.
Sure, but I'm asking you, do you think that is a theological position only, or is that a scientific position?
Correct.
I think that that's what the Bible says, and I don't know what would make it scientific or theological.
I feel like that's almost a senator's type of answer. But when I ask, or when I say that women evolved before men, and we know this factually as this, within an empirical realm, that, in my opinion, goes head to head with what you are telling me is a theological position. Or you didn't say it was theological, but it seems to me that it is a theological position. So how can we reconcile just that alone, this one scientific fact, men came first or women came first?
I don't believe in evolution, so I can't.
Right.
I can't really answer that question from your perspective, Amy.
No, we want you to answer from your perspective, not ours. We understand that.
But you're a science guy. You don't believe in evolution?
Of course not. That's. I used to. Hey, I mean, as an atheist, you look at things in a natural way, and honestly, I didn't think there could be any other explanation. And I thought people were, you look at. I was taught the Galapagos Islands and the freaking beaks on the birds, and I just said, obviously, that's evolution.
Well,
proof.
I appreciate
where are you going with this, and maybe I can answer your question if I knew where you're
well,
going.
I mean, the first linchpin I would say is right off the bat. I would say we see a division between what science says and what the Bible says. That would be my first division. I would ask another follow-up question to that.
Well, let me ask you one. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
The egg, 100%.
The egg, because an egg is, well, sure, what Leo said, but generally, lay speaking, I would say the egg, because it is a mechanism. The mechanism of
it would actually be the
laying
chicken.
eggs. Why would
Because
you
there
say
are
the
proteins in the shell of the egg that can only be made by the chicken's body. But it's the actual real answer is neither. That's a meaningless question.
But you would also agree that before avian chickens, that animals have been able to lay eggs for millions, if not billions of years. That would be my answer.
Eggs came before chickens.
Is that eggs came before what we see as a chicken?
The jungle
the
fowl.
Egg 100% came.
Oh, you mean like phylogenetically before? Okay, yeah.
She doesn't mean the first
I see what you're
egg-laying
saying.
animal.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the right answer is it.
Oh no.
Yeah, the right answer is the chicken, or really the jungle fowl.
But then, P-Town, I'll give you another. And once again, it always, when I feel like young Earth creationists, they first hear it, they giggle. And I understand the giggling.
But
it's
you're
just
a young Earth as well? Is that right?
Oh yeah, you're right. I just assumed. But he is saying that Adam and Eve is.
So he must be young Earth.
I mean,
a
not
more
necessarily.
literal interpretation. And
I do believe in. I think I would be considered a young earther. Yeah, I mean that's what the Bible says.
6,000 to 7,000 years old.
If you count the ages of the people through the generations, it's about that. Yes,
that's young Earth.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that the gap theory and putting it's just against what the Bible says. Yeah.
But
Gap
once
theory?
again,
What's
this
that?
always sounds like
Sorry,
a
go ahead.
risque question.
I guess.
We can cover that later
but
if you want.
I'll tell you another linchpin on why women evolved before men.
Amy? So I'm guessing, are you gay or
I'm
was that
bisexual.
What is that?
You're bisexual. Okay, so I want you to know that I actually won. I was a state finalist, won districts. My speech in school was against religion, and one of my biggest points was that, I don't like the way that Christians approach that type of stuff, right?
Okay, I agree completely.
So that's my past,
What does this have to do with
anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I'm not sure if you're going.
The fact that you're trying to, it sounds like you're trying to say you're a Christian ally, and in that way, I'm just happy to have you then. In that respect, so thank you for that. Absolutely, because I would say, and I'll even offer the same thing back. Even though I love the debate sphere and I consider myself a counter apologist, I would never want anyone to be prejudiced to someone, including Christians. You shouldn't be prejudiced to any sort of belief. As long as they're not punching you in the face, everyone should be having good discussions.
Well, so
the only people you used to be prejudiced towards are
then.
racist and bigots people, or racist and bigoted people. Jesus.
So you're not a Bible literalist because the Bible is very clear on what gay people and all those should, how they should be treated.
Well, I could go down this path, but I just want to be careful doing that because I would tell you, I would defer you to Romans 1. I believe it's in fact I think it's related to this discussion, denying God as a creator God, just a God in general, and we're not talking about a particular religion, just that denying that God made the world and the universe. There's a specific judgment, and I do think that it has something to do with
turns you gay. It turns you gay.
And that's my interpretation of what the Bible says. I believing whether or not, but I think it's a culture, a judgment upon a culture, and I think that you can demonstrate this in a scientific way too. Once we started requiring evolution in schools, and whatever, you can see the correlation between that and like more divorces.
See the correlation between what?
And I think you can see a correlation between that and more divorces.
Between what? More divorces?
Yeah.
I heart you. That is not true.
What?
Maybe it's not, but
you said between that and divorces. What's
you're really
that?
doing the Kent Hovind arguments?
What's that?
I'm so confused.
Well, again, I didn't want to dive down into this too much because it will kind of get off topic.
But you brought it up first out of nowhere. That's why we're kind of grilling you on it.
Well, I wasn't sure where Amy was going with her point, and if it was related or not.
Came first.
It is related.
That
yes.
really is the drilling home of it. And once again, so I'll just say it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that women. Well, I'll ask it a question. Why do men have nipples?
I just want to throw a firecracker in this chat. Amy's not just bi; she's also transgender. Just wanted to say that.
Oh boy.
Woo-hoo. That's right. I am at least half of the LGBT. In fact, if you do LGBTQ, I'm like
you're a couple of them in there.
Of it, yeah.
I know. It's like you're at a Dairy Queen and they ask what you want, and you're just like, "I'll take it all."
Yeah, give me one of each, baby.
But yes, I'd rather ask my view in a Socratic method, and that is to you: why do men have nipples?
A side note, did you know I have the world's smallest nipples?
Oh my.
Yeah. They're tiny. Yeah, I know. I would if we were
Did you know you can milk anything with
why, but I think your point is
okay, Fokker.
I think your point is why do they have nipples? Why? Because women evolved first is your point.
That is
I get it. I see where you're going.
Correct.
And I would have to say that is an interesting idea.
Hey, I'll take it.
But it's scientifically accurate, though. That's the problem.
Can I ask you another quick question, P-Town?
You guys can ask me anything you want.
You said you lean towards young Earth creationism. This is gonna sound like I'm making a 180. I have to preface this. I am not. Believe me, I'm staying on point. You just got to let me get through. It's not going to take long.
That's the Leo way.
What do you think of capitalism?
Oh Lord.
Who was the communist? Are you the communist guy from earlier?
Well, I'm not a communist, but I am a Marxist, yes.
Marxist.
I'm not
okay.
going in that direction, but this question relates to the point that I am making,
Well,
and people will soon see why.
Sure. In the same way, and it's great that we're going off into directions I don't want to go, but I'm ready to trot into
Well,
it.
like,
I want to set the foundation that
largely. Like, do you support the market system? Like that? That's really what I'm asking you.
I just want to set the foundation that I'm not I don't like categorizing too many things, right, with definitions. But what I am is I believe in freedom. So I would define myself as a free market capitalist, baby.
Sweet. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yes. So you think that fossil fuel companies aren't going to invest in technologies that aren't going to increase their profit margins, correct? They wouldn't have an incentive to do that. It'd be a waste of capital investment.
They would. Well, see, there's a lot to that, but I think that, and this I'll go back to as an example of me. I'm a free market capitalist, but I don't believe in just giving people money to make sure that wealth is equal. But I do believe in. Let me finish for a second because I'll make
discussion.
Let me finish this because it'll make sense. But I also donate so much money to other people, individual people, right? And in the same way, if there's a Christian person who owns an oil industry, I'm sure that they would put a lot of money to other things too.
I don't know what this has to do with the point. Look, all I want to know is if you think that it's true that under the economic systems that we live, if fossil fuel companies would invest in technologies that didn't increase their profit margins.
Typically, people act in their own interests. Yes.
Yeah. So if in the interest of firms is to increase their profit margins. So, did you know that radiometric dating is utilized very, very frequently in prospecting for fossil fuels and petroleum?
Yep.
You know that, right? See, I promised I was going to stay on top of guys.
I don't know too much about the specifics of radiometric dating. I'm very familiar with it. But
I mean, if you're denying that the Earth is at least 4 to 4.5 billion years old, then you are intrinsically denying the accuracy of radiometric dating used by a multi-billion-dollar industry that has continuously found the petroleum that they need to, the fossil fuels, and increased their profits. So I'm just wondering if you actually think that the Earth is young. Explain the success of the contemporary human fossil fuel industry.
Sure, the radiometric dating. I don't know the details of it, but I'll defer to correlation versus causation. So just because there is a correlation doesn't mean it was caused by that, right? So if you have
what's the relevance here?
Nonsensical.
I understand the principle, but what's the relevance here?
So if they can, I do believe that that radiometric dating is useful. Right, and I do think that it can be used to find whatever, but it doesn't necessarily prove that the Earth has to be millions of years old.
Yeah, it does.
Well, it
100%.
does if we're looking at the amounts of radiometric material that is left over in the rocks when we date them using these methods.
Sure. So why does the different radiometric materials make it so that it's millions of years old? What's the
because the ratios of the different elements to each other, they could only exist in those ratios under this amount of time. And yes, we are able to account for any outside external factors, the very few that there are, that may have an effect on this.
They give us absolute dates. Absolute dates.
Yeah. I mean, most of this is based on fundamental constants of nature.
See, again, I think you just said fundamental constants of nature when I believe that there was catastrophe that happened and that constants are not constant, that God changed stuff quite a bit. So that's why
we don't have reason to believe that.
I do, because that's what the Bible says, and the Bible.
Yeah, but we don't see that in reality. So why would we believe it?
Even the Bible says that you won't see it. It says that all things.
So then why
they're going to say all things continue as they were since the beginning, and so God already said that you were going to say that.
Yeah.
You
so
know?
You
believe in uniformitarianism. I don't.
What that is.
So to
how can I believe in
radiometric dating as proof of how I'm wrong is not logical in my
Well, it is, because it objectively shows that what you say about the age of the Earth is wrong. The fact that we have the fossil fuel industry shows that you're wrong.
Wait, show that again.
PhD in physics. Okay, so we know we have someone that knows a little bit.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Do you think that? Do you think you're better than me now? You think you're better than me?
At physics, I guess. Yeah.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
Just that. I didn't realize I was going to be displaying that on stream, but that's fine. I was prepared to do it because there's a little thing that says that. We have ways of testing if some of these fundamental constants have changed over time. They don't. As far as we can tell, they don't. Now, it is true that I don't know if we have ways of testing, or I'm not sure to what extent we have ways of testing them changing in the past, but the number of things that have to change simultaneously in order for all of our measurements to coincide with a date for the Earth of over 4.5 billion years old and a date for the age of the universe of around 13.8 billion years old is astronomical. Literally astronomical. If that's the case, God's tricking us.
And then that just makes him deceitful.
Yeah.
Is that a question? Are you want me to comment? Or?
No, it wasn't a question. It was an assertion.
Okay. Well, I would assert that you're wrong.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
But I do understand
enough.
it, though. I mean, keep
That's
in mind,
fair
like,
enough. But if you're going to assert that, then you
Sure.
gotta bring the receipts, man.
Well, this is
it doesn't fit with any model. You have to provide a model that provides predictions for future data. You need to predict what future data is going to reveal.
Sure, and the Bible does that.
And when has it come out better than modern science and any geological theory or physical theory of the history of the fucking reality that we live in that corresponds to that? I don't know if that was a coherent sentence, but
well, when it comes to all the constants that are required to that might impact whatever radiometric dating is, that would be a lot to cover. But there's a lot of things in the Bible that are mentioned before that science is only recently discovered. Relatively. Space. Well, I mean, we could say that's an obvious one. I was just watching a documentary, guys, and they literally said the fabric of space. And when I read my Bible, it talks about the garment and how he stretches out the heavens like a garment, and they literally use the word fabric.
That's
I'm
not
like,
the same thing.
Yeah, it's also an analogical.
So still, the fact that the Bible says it first, guys.
No,
do you know why the term fabric is used?
Yeah, just to
because people don't understand the word manifold.
The same way they say abiogenesis.
And then after
we're
tobacco,
at war
I
right
think
now.
he's about to
The
say
term
something.
manifold is somewhat flexible, though. Fabric is gonna be more intuitive, and because the point is that you have local connection of space-time, right? If you have 2 points in space-time that are infinitesimally close, they stay infinitesimally close, generally speaking. Okay, that's why things like frame dragging happen.
Which is a very interesting.
And that's what happens in things like fabric.
I don't really care.
And it also curves the rest of it. That's why
don't care.
It's a very reasonable, intuitive thing. That's the only reason it's used.
It shares geometric properties that
care about
space-time
frame
exhibits.
dragging.
It's so cool.
As it's related to God declaring something first that science has only recently discovered.
It's not.
I don't think it's related.
Do you know what that statement in the Bible actually means? Because I've heard people who
mentioned
actually
16 times. I think,
who actually
in different ways.
read or know how to speak and read and write the languages that these verses were originally written in. They would not have been talking about the fabric of space-time. That's they were talking about the sky. God,
he says
that the reason the sky stretches over the earth is because God made it that way. It's not in any way talking about space is expanding. That's not. No.
I would disagree. I think that
How
he
would
says
we
it's
know?
stretched out like a tent to dwell in,
Yeah,
stretched
but
out
that's in
like a
English,
curtain.
right? Do you know what
Stretched out like
it
a
is in the
curtain.
original
You
language?
literally just gave an example of what's kind of like a curtain would be
What do
in
tents
space.
do? Tents help protect you from things that are going on and like hitting you. Okay, if you're talking about stretching the fabric into the universe,
It's
the
kind of like a
metaphor doesn't work.
balloon. Tent.
No.
No. What
A
are you
tent
talking
and a
about?
balloon are
Hey
not.
guys, tents are like
I don't think
balloons. If
that's.
you
Look
shoot a
at the
duck,
picture
I'm
of the Big
scared
Bang.
coasters.
Look at the picture of the Big Bang.
Yeah, I
Like
don't see any tents.
There's no pictures
the
of the
poster
Big
of it.
Bang.
The poster
The
of it
I don't
that
see
you
any
see all the
tents.
time. The poster that you see all the time kind of looks like a
Oh my
tent to
god, that's
me.
just an artist
I don't know what
rendition. That's
poster
not
you're
what we think
talking
happened.
about. Like,
Oh no,
wait,
he's
hold on
thinking about
here.
the one. He's thinking about the one I
The
think that
CMB.
starts off and then has no. He's thinking about the one that's the balloon one. He's thinking
Well,
about the
let-
one that starts off and then has the inflation bit and then goes like
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
stop,
There's
turn
my
that
boy
on
knows
its
what I'm talking
side,
about.
which
God.
Well,
we don't
whatever you
do
were talking
because
about,
that's
where
Wait.
not
two
what
points
we
connect
tend to
in
think
some
of things.
fancy words, 2 points
Well,
connect,
connectedness.
right? Think about it. That's kind of like a curtain too. And so
I
it's
mean,
just I see a lot of patterns in the Bible all the time. There's so many. There's
So
they're
what?
they're
We're
all
really
yeah,
good
but
at seeing
so is our
patterns. So what?
nose.
That's
So
true.
is our nose. Is our
Maybe God
nose
made us
like
good
a
to see
deep,
patterns so we can see
like
the Bible's
biological
divine.
prediction of inflationary physics?
Hmm.
It
Sorry, I
like you
missed
can
that.
find these patterns if you need to be able to use them for the prediction of future data. That's the power of science. Is the
Sure,
ability
here's
to
an example. A bunch
data.
of fancy physics guys who got fancy degrees years ago were arguing with each other about how many stars are in the sky over and over again. Arguing, oh no, it's 3002. No, it's
No,
3017.
we've never
And
said
then the
that
Bible
ever.
says they're not countable. There's an
Exactly.
example. The Bible predicted the future.
Except that the number of stars that exists in the universe is technically countable.
And
We just
P-Town,
can't see
can
them.
I ask
It's,
you?
it's also
That's
finite.
P-Town, what do you think
I gave you an
science
example.
is?
It
I
might
gave
not
you an
be finite.
example,
I'm not sure I
Tapio.
agree with you on that, Leo. I'm not sure I agree with you on that. I'm not convinced the universe is finite, except the observable universe certainly, but all of it,
Tell them the Bible was right, Tapio.
Finite the way that the surface
well,
of
no,
space
that
is
doesn't mean they're
finite.
not countable. Countable is a property of the integers, and stars
no.
are discrete objects, and therefore their amount is going to be countable even if it's infinite, because the
Yes,
integers are countable.
The set of stars in the universe has a cardinality.
Look, I loved learning about the Big Bang. You know, how we discovered how the universe is expanding. Then we learned how it's expanding at an accelerating rate. And I watched all those documentaries, and I still love to watch them. That's why I mentioned I was listening to one the other day where they were talking about fabric of space.
But
you know,
then
I
you
love that
refer the
stuff.
Bible
And
as
now
real.
when I read the Bible and I go, holy crap, this is awesome. There is science and stuff in the Bible.
Well,
oh my God.
P-Town, can
God
I
said it
ask,
first,
what
yeah.
is science to you?
Exactly.
Science is knowledge. That's what the word means.
That's the problem.
Yeah, no.
Well,
we should have addressed
again, I
this
said I don't
while
want to play definitions. I'm not a philosopher.
and that's fair.
we
That's
do.
fair.
Well, but
then
hold on.
We should have agreed on a different word a long time ago. Even
Do you
though I
know
was
what
in
the
this
word
conversation.
omniscience is?
Yes.
Yes, it's well.
Omniscience?
That depends on what you mean by it. See, this is the
Perfume.
thing. Like,
All-knowing?
we need to talk about
Yeah.
definitions because this is going to help us understand the concepts we're trying to convey to each other, and then we will be able to clear up any nuances or points of misclarification or anything like that, and we will talk past each other less.
I do have
if
a
your
quick question.
definition is simply one word, then you should be skeptical because why aren't we using just that one word?
Hey, I do have a quick question, and this is,
Thank
I'm
you,
not trying to
Jay.
be an asshole, but
Sure.
what kind of background
Send in love.
education do you have?
And I hope you've
Are
had
you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Like my full education?
Sure. Like, what's your highest level of education?
I have a college degree.
In?
I ended up doing psychology. I'd rather not talk too much about it.
No. I'm not
That's
saying
fair.
like give
That's
specifics.
fair.
That's fine.
I don't want people to find out who, I don't
That's
want
fair.
my
that's not what
identity
I'm
to
asking. I'm
That's
just
fair.
you
Yeah.
have a bachelor's in psychology. That's fine. That's all I was asking. That's it.
I also have I double majored. I think I majored in English. I had like one more class, and I was like, double English major is kind of dumb, so I didn't even take the last class. I'm not sure.
I would say the reason that you shouldn't spend a lot of time talking about definitions because I think that could eventually bog you down. But I think it's often good to get clarification because sometimes that's where the real debate is.
Yeah. Right. Well, I can go all the way down to where you guys are going to go with this because I've been there. You guys are going to want to define what the science and how the scientific method works, right? And how, but ultimately, science has stolen the show because God is against. I'm sorry, I thought I heard my little one. Ultimately, God cannot be a part of science because science is hijacked. You can't even associate it with God. And I think that that's where we've made a tragic mistake in our history of how science has evolved and our definition of it. I think if you have to take God out of the equation for it to be science, that's wrong. I used to believe that. I was like, keep science in the science classroom, and there's not religion, but my views are different now.
Can I give you our definition or what I think many of ours would be? We would say instead of science being knowledge, which is where I think it's where the etymology of the word is what you're really speaking of. But what science is now is more the scientific. It is the process by which we observe something, form hypotheses, go out in the field, collect research, hopefully have a model and results that we can then get peer reviewed by others. What would you think of that?
Well, I would say that's what I mean is you're going to make it so you can't have God as part of this process. You're going to say it has to be left out. And to answer your question, Tapio, earlier you said you wanted me to give you an example, and I did, of how God declared something before, and that's part of the scientific method.
What was it?
How stars can't be counted, right? And if you give God and his word as, hey, I have a hypothesis. God doesn't have hypothesis.
That's
just an example.
Okay, I will give that one to you because the term can't be, the phrase can't be counted could very reasonably be inferred to mean infinite, Leo. Even if we can, argue that
infinite sets are countable.
But we would agree that it's more than 3006 or 3018.
It's not an unreasonable interpretation of the phrase. Come on, Leo. Right?
Well, I'm just saying that I'm not disagreeing, but just like an infinite set is also a countable set.
I played the loophole game, but I'm not trying to play that game, and I want to show P-Town that I'm willing to meet him halfway here.
There's a finite number of grains of sand in the world, but I don't think it's practical to say you could count
in this
them,
world,
every single one of them.
There's an infinite number of worlds, and there isn't. And
I think the Bible actually compares it to the sand on the seashores too.
But yeah,
we're going back to how do I think a metaphor? And for that guy's $2 question, do I believe that metaphors can be? And I answered and I said I believe that they could be both metaphorical and literal. The more literal I take something, the more knowledge is revealed. There's an example for that $2 question. Well, I find it amazing. There's so many of those guys. There's so many of them in the Bible.
Is there something specific that convinced you that the Bible was true?
You can't narrow it down to one thing because of the number of them.
But you did say you were an atheist. So there had to be something to convince you to become a theist and even specifically a Christian.
Yeah, I mean, the number. A lot of them were the number of these scientific things, but that's also a small part. I also had to, say, God, I am a sinner, and forgive me, and say, Jesus, I know that this sounds crazy, and but I heard that you know me, and you know how hard this is for me. But will you forgive me and teach me what it means to be loved by you? And then it happens slowly.
Why would you even get there if you don't? If you're an atheist, why would you just wake up one day and ask for forgiveness?
Who are you?
I didn't. It was a really hard and long path for me. I mean, I'm a rare example, guys.
What made you even?
That's not okay. Yeah. There can be a lot of different things. It's not unreasonable that somebody might not remember the specific things.
Randolph wants to say something.
There isn't any specific thing that made me an atheist.
Me neither.
But you could give examples of certain things that led you
Randolph.
down that path.
Actually,
I can give you
yeah,
examples of
oh,
those
Town.
too.
Guys, Randolph isn't going to break in. We got to be quiet and let him talk.
Yeah, he's too polite.
I'm Canadian. I guess I'm I'm kind of like that. I remember earlier you mentioned that the more you read the Bible, more literally, the more it makes sense to you. I'm wondering how you reconcile the story about Isaac and his father Abraham being ordered to kill him. Ordered to kill him.
I could talk for hours on that.
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
The problem I have with it, aside from the violent aspects, the child abuse and things like that, is that it seems to me that the Bible doesn't, after the story, it fails completely to reflect on the psychological ramifications on Isaac. Now, if this is supposed to be a teaching tool, then and teaching parenting, it seems to me that the right thing to do would be to reflect on that. Unless you're willing to say that it's not meant to be a teaching tool for parents. I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
Sure, I that's a good question. I think I can answer that for you. I believe that the story says that Isaac, he asks his dad, what's up, man? Where's the wood and where's the lamb? Or we have the wood, but where's the lamb? And he said, Abraham says, God would provide himself an offering. And then Isaac goes willingly with his father. And this patterns the relationship of God our Father and Jesus the Son. And then afterwards you're asking, what about the trauma that he might have experienced? I don't look at it like it's trauma, but the fact that Isaac went willingly is the same way that Jesus went willingly to the cross and also carried his own wood, just like Isaac did. And I'll have you know too, it's interesting after this.
We all carry our own wood, okay? It's the strain of being a male.
Like that was coming.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
How old was Isaac at that time?
Some people say he was probably about 30 or 33. I tried to do the work to figure that out because that might be another pattern, but it was too much work for me, to be honest. I tried.
I don't think there's enough info.
Yeah, you would have to. There would be some assumptions to.
So that's new to me because the impression I get is that he's like 7 or 8 or 9 or maybe 10 years old in that kind of range.
That's why I was wrong.
Well.
No, this was a grown man. This was a grown man who willingly said, "Okay,
it's still
Dad."
Pretty bad, but
well, okay. So if you're going to claim that though, what's your justification for that?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do remember doing that research, and you can defer that. You'll have to do that on your own, though. I don't have that off the top of my head. I wish I had my Bible here. Honestly.
What the best?
That's my heavy artillery.
Do I? Where the fuck is my Bible? I should have a Bible.
Look at this! I'm getting atheists to get their Bibles.
Hold up the kitchen
Get
table.
a King James.
It's a better.
I don't have a King James. I have an NIV.
I have a children's Bible. That's the only Bible I've got.
Well, that's why you thought that he was 7 years old.
And it's fully illustrated, but they don't cover that part.
Fair,
right? I'm so mad about that.
What chapter and verse?
I get so mad about that, Randolph.
I've got it in storage, or I'd be showing it off here right now.
Right. I can't stand that. I can't stand if you go to read the the story of Noah and the flood, how there's a giraffe sticking out of the boats, his head sticking out. I think it's dangerous. Yeah.
I think the chapter starts
22.
Child killer. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong title. What?
No, so I'll have you, to talk about the trauma. I'll give you another interesting thing that happens. After this event, Isaac isn't mentioned. His name isn't mentioned. And this is a demonstration of the Holy Spirit in the Bible. His name is not mentioned. Isaac's gone. He's referred to him still as his son, but the name Isaac's gone until he finds his bride. Now, when you become a Christian, you start to understand the significance of that pattern. And that might be related to your concerns about the trauma. Yeah, go ahead.
So chapter Genesis 22 starts with, according to the NIV, which, you know, have as you will. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am. Take your son Isaac, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah.
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 Yeah.
I swear. I mean, yeah, it is Moriah because there's an H at the end. But
You
still,
need to
that's
get a
kind
King
of fucked up.
James.
Would you?
It's all right.
Bitch, I'm an atheist. I got a Bible. Okay? The fuck are you doing?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay?
I don't even have mine.
1 Peter 3:15.
Amy's got a few.
I'm afraid
I
I'll
like
wake my
this
daughter
guy.
up if I go get it. Yeah. Sorry. Keep reading the Bible,
So,
atheist.
my
Let's hear it.
point was, and
Bible
then
makes
it
atheists.
goes on. The point was that it said sometime later, referring to presumably stuff that happened in Genesis 21, and I was really hoping somebody was going to be able to like baton swap here, but probably not. So, Genesis 21, the title here says "Birth of Isaac" because he finally is able to knock up Sarah, and Hagar and Ishmael are sent away because that's how one treats family.
You know what's kind of interesting? Notice, remember when I said apparent contradictions reveal stuff? So a lot of people say there's so many contradictions in the Bible. Those ones fascinate me. You just said, hey, your only son. Imagine that first part as a dialogue. Abraham, okay, God, yeah. Take thy son. Well, which one? No, thy only son. I don't have one son.
I don't know what you want
I
me to
don't have
say,
one son, and he's like,
your
no,
own
Isaac. Right? The
That's
apparent
your
contradiction is kind of revealing. It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. It makes sense.
What do you think that means?
Well, think about it. Think about how the Jews take this story, right?
Do you believe?
It doesn't make sense without Jesus.
Now
is
we're
what I'm
concerned
saying.
with how the
Do
people
you
who wrote it down
believe?
meant.
I mean, you brought this up. I wasn't going to nitpick this, but do you believe that statement can be reasonably interpreted as an assertion by God, the equivalent of a statement of fact that he only has one son, or not?
Well, he clearly had more than one son. That's my point. Is it doesn't make sense.
So was God lying, or did he lack knowledge?
He was preparing.
No, well, it doesn't say, Leo. Again, I see where you're going, but this is the sentence is not "you only have one son." The sentence is "your only son," which, while it implies a statement of fact, isn't necessarily in and of itself a statement of fact.
Well, I think it is. I think there's a proposition.
It's a very reasonable position. I also hold that position, but like, if
And
you
I
get legalistic about it, I think there's room to argue.
I also have one fun question for P-Town once we're done with this. It's a quick one.
Well, actually, I'm going to interrupt both of you. Because
The
I'm
child
gonna make
grew and was
sure-
weaned.
Oh,
So
continue,
it said
okay.
that. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Oh, no. It's a different direction, but I want to just make sure that they get their super chat read from Hillhugger. $2 super chat asking, could the devil have inspired the Bible? I think that's for you, though, P-Town.
Well, I think that's one of the most dangerous things to say. And here's why. I'm going to embarrass myself, but my mom has schizophrenia. And that was one of the big aversions I had from why I was such an atheist. Because when I would go visit her in the mental institution in England, I would meet Jesus,
Hold on,
right?
P-Town. I'm sorry. That isn't embarrassing in any way, shape, or form, and anybody who's ever made you feel like that's embarrassing is wrong.
Well, so
there's nothing wrong with any of that.
She would bring people home who would, out of their mind and tell me to stare into the sun long enough, I'll see Jesus, right? And I'm sorry, I got distracted. What about so my mom, I now do think that a large rule, it's a spiritual battle for her. She when she got really sick when she was 13 and she promised the devil, she thinks she sold her soul to the devil. Really weird, right? But I literally have casted out a demon before, and again, coming like with her, and it's the craziest crap happened. But anyway, it's dangerous, but there literally are people who will teach you that the Bible is from the devil and actually wrote it. And that's one of the things that the Bible says in some ways, like that's what Satan does. It starts we just talked about Adam and Eve. What did he say? Did he, the snake goes, did God not say that you could eat of any tree in the garden? Right? Right? And he doesn't say, he doesn't mention, except for that one. He says, didn't he say that you could eat of any? Because that's what God did say, right? In that sense, I don't know if I can make the connection, but to say that the devil wrote the Bible, I mean, that's just like, hey, like, kind of like saying, can't you eat of any tree in the garden? It's scary.
I don't agree with that.
As a Christian, that
well, I'm an
hopefully
atheist,
I
and I
answered
don't
your
agree
question.
with that at all. I don't think we know man wrote the Bible. Period. End of story.
It might have been penned by men, but doesn't mean that was the author.
I agree with you. We know who wrote the Bible. It was man, no one else.
And we would probably say it was also inspired by men. But CP Town, I feel like even at the end of that, you even knew that it was kind of a good line of thinking, because you're like, God went like that. Aren't we going to eat all these fruits? You just eat one, and then you can't. Once you pop, they're like Pringles. Once you pop, fun don't stop.
So do you believe God created the devil?
I think the devil is a tricky person.
Yeah, I have
Randall's question.
I just have this fun question. Yeah. Do you think Doctor Who's TARDIS was constructed from gopher wood?
Who's Doctor Who?
So Doctor Who is the main protagonist of Doctor Who. Oh, who? Are you setting up a joke?
Well,
tonight?
I'll just explain, because there's a question raised here. So Doctor Who's TARDIS, I'm not a fan of Doctor Who, but I'm familiar with the show. But the inside of the TARDIS is much larger than how it appears on the outside. So I'm thinking, if the Ark was constructed of gopher wood, it should have this kind of property to help explain why it could carry so much.
Well, I don't know who Doctor Who is. I don't know what a TARDIS is,
show.
And I have, for the life of me, I haven't been able to find out what God meant by gopher wood.
It's a cultural reference. It's a TV show. Doctor Who is a TV show, and you should Google it, because this is a cultural reference. It'll be useful for you to have in your pocket.
I was trying to make it fun for you, P-Town, because you've been getting all these hard questions. So.
And as well,
sorry to let you down.
It's one of
no, you did fine.
One of the most well-known exported TV shows. It has been going on at this point for decades. It has been allowed to, because it's kind of it is a sci-fi show, and it's built in. Yeah, it has a built-in that the protagonist.
It had a big hiatus in the middle, though, right? Doctor Who had a big hiatus in the middle,
yes,
right?
Well, in fact, so if there was the original Doctor Who,
like Professor
came out,
what?
I think in the 60s, the 70s.
It was the late 60s, yeah.
And then there is a reboot of the version, which is what most people now know, and they have been going on through different doctors for at least 4 or 5 different doctors now. But that's made possible because he is an alien who has the ability to regenerate, and so. Ooh, and he flies a box, a time machine that is only basically a telephone box.
An old British telephone booth.
When you step inside of it, it's gigantic. So the phrase "it's bigger on the inside" where it comes from.
I'm more of a Trekkie myself, but that's Doctor Who's very well respected. Yeah.
Hey, so Peter, I did have a question. Was there a pending question? I can't remember.
Yeah, do you believe that God created the devil or Satan?
You know, that's an interesting question.
Why?
Because it doesn't, he just kind of appears,
Okay, but hold on. But didn't God create everything?
Yeah, I thought things couldn't just pop into existence uncaused.
What I meant, he just appears in the Bible, right?
Uncaused out of nothing, apparently.
Right. I mean, to answer your question, obviously he did create the devil. Yeah. But it doesn't. He just kind of appears in the Bible as one of the characters, and he doesn't go first. He doesn't mention, "Oh, I made him," and now and then he appears. It's yeah. I mean, obviously, I
But
guess
you
so.
do know that Satan used to be Lucifer and used to be an angel, right?
Right. I think the Bible alludes to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It does a little more than allude to that.
Correct.
Does it?
It alludes to it the same way that Harry Potter alludes to the existence of magic.
That where?
I don't know. And this is not my area of expertise, guys.
Because I'm not sure it does. I think allude is a decent word, actually. I'm not sure it's very specific about that. There's the whole dogma and doctrine around Satan is, in my opinion, built on very flimsy ground.
Well, I don't want to cut you off, Tapio, but one reason why I was like, you need a King James is because literally in the NIV, I think it references the son of the morning, and it uses it gets Jesus and literally Satan mixed up in a spot. And that's one of many reasons why you might have that impression. Right. And that's why I'm very get a King James. I'm not saying I'm not a King James only
the King
guy.
James. I read the Bible all the way through.
Really?
I think once at an age where it mattered. And it was in my early teens. It was a long time ago, and my reading retention and comprehension, it's not particularly impressive. I have read much more carefully the first 3 books of the Bible recently, which certainly is not the whole Bible, but insofar as our conversation has related primarily to Genesis so far, it's still fairly useful. But I don't have a King James. That being said, I'm going to be an asshole again and point out that, neither do you.
Yeah, I got 2 in my car, and just so you know, in a minute, I can go get. You should see my Bible. I call it the Rainbow, though. Freaking highlighters, sticky notes, and it just looks like a rainbow.
I've always wondered about that because I've never really
like my
done
big
much
one.
of that
I got
in
a
my
giant
Bible.
one.
So are the pages a little thicker? Because most Bibles have those crazy thin pages, which are really good for Bibles and joints and not much else.
Right. Mine is I bought this. The reason why I bought a giant one, and it's literally the size of a TV, is so I can take notes and put sticky notes and highlight. That's I don't know. I just moved. I just got a house, so I don't know where that one is, and it's been kind of freaking me out.
Congratulations.
Yeah, someone packed it somewhere.
There are 8 planets.
The Pluto haters coming out. No.
I'm going with Carl Sagan on this one, Leo. How dare you?
I'm going with.
Yeah, I don't care.
If there are 9 planets, then there are actually closer to 90 planets, because almost every other moon, most of them I think are bigger than Pluto, about the same size or bigger. Our moon is bigger than Pluto.
It is funny though. In the Old Testament,
I'll be right back. I'm going to put it on mute for a minute. Just a second.
Oh, never mind.
You can still go. You can still talk.
I wanted to ask.
He might still be listening. He's just on mute.
James, what was your question anyway?
Well, actually, I had a few, but the one question I wanted to ask is, especially at least initially in the Old Testament, the devil doesn't really seem to be a main character. God doesn't really give anybody any warnings about him. He doesn't really seem to be a person. We're told the snake is him, but that's not very apparent from the text. You would think that if humans had this arch enemy out there trying to deceive us, that God would have given us a warning about it, but he doesn't. And that's obviously because he wasn't part of the mythos when that was written. He was an addition that was added later because it's a much more compelling story for God to have an adversary, but it doesn't really even make sense, because why would an omnipotent God have an adversary? Why would a highly intelligent angel launch an insurrection that was doomed to fail against an omnipotent deity that you could never kill or displace anyway, knowing what would happen to him. The whole thing, it really just doesn't make sense.
I agree with you.
For the lulz mostly.
I agree with you, and the whole, again, it goes back to I'm not God, and why he did all that, I don't know. But I would object to your point in one way, that the Bible does prepare us for where the enemy's coming. And I'll give you an example when it's talking about, vain, imaginations and science falsely so called. It does allude, and it tells you, like, literally, it's evidence for me too. Like, if you had a king, right, that was telling you the enemy is coming from over this hill,
but
and it's going to come at you with these spears, right? And then that happens, then you're like, man, my king knows what he's doing. And in that sense, I do think that.
I think what James is really trying to ask you is, if you're God, why does an enemy even exist? Like it just seems weird that an omnipotent being has like a rival, like in an anime sense or a story sense.
Yeah, like the Battle of Armageddon.
I'll say I agree with you. One thing that helped me with that.
Why would you have a battle against the deity? You can never win. You could never hurt him. Why would anybody go through the process unless God was just making him do it for his own amusement?
Right. I'm not God, and I can't answer those questions. But I would say one thing that helped me with that idea, and it was who's the C.S. Lewis, right? I mean, a lot of things are relative. There's no, for example, what's good and what's bad. There's really no, good without comparing it to bad, right? There's no light without dark. In a sense, I'm trying to describe, again, what I didn't want to do was talk about something philosophical, but that C.S. Lewis was something that helped me with that.
P-Town, what is your favorite? Choose one scientific thing that you think supports the Bible. Your best one.
I'm not gonna do that. I made that mistake before because, again, it's not. Well, it's the number of them. But I'll give you another example. But it's the volume, because you're gonna say, because you liked the idea with the stars and you would agree that God said that first. But it's not that significant.
I gave you that one. Yeah,
you gave it to me, right?
I gave you that one. Yeah.
And I would say, is it metaphorical? Did he get lucky? Maybe, but it's the number of them, right? So you still got us, or did you? I'll wait for you to find.
Yeah, give me about 30 seconds, okay?
Okay.
Can the Holy Bible prove? Can the Holy Bible prove that Pluto is a planet?
No, because we define it a planet and then don't define it a planet, and it's just us playing definitions. I don't think God cares.
Okay.
He made Pluto, though.
I fucking love these headphones. I got hot swappable batteries.
Can I just ask, P-Town? Yeah. You said that it was a multitude of things, but so you didn't wake up one day and you're like, "Oh my goddess, a God exists." It didn't hit you in the face. It was a slow burn.
No, I was an atheist. I mean, it was very hard for me. It was very hard. I'm a rare breed. I mean, I don't know people who were not raised in a Christian family, who gave speeches against religion, and then become Christian.
Can I tell you why that is?
This is why this is so cool for me.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure everyone does have their own story. But there's a joke. There was once a gentleman who came on a very popular show in our community called The Atheist Experience, and he said, "You need to understand. I understand. I am a Christian now, but I used to be an inner circle atheist." He's like, I was really into, and so we get this occasionally, but it's fair because most of the atheists come from theist backgrounds, so we say the same thing back.
Right. That was Canadian Catholic, right?
Yeah, that was Canadian Catholic. I got to show that fellow to Canadian Catholic, and I think his mouth was like
exciting.
I think it was a little
Canada.
too meta for him. Yeah.
On the Discord for Atheist Experience, I'm in the inner circle group.
So You're an inner circle atheist too.
You are. An
I don't
circle
think
atheist.
they're gonna let me anywhere near them.
Damn it. And you have to throw babies in volcanoes once a year to even have membership. But I guess I wanted to know, you said you struggled. It was something that was hard for you to actually admit. I mean, I guess help us. What was it that really, even if it was just, I know when we say give us our best, you're like, well, it's a multitude. Well, is there maybe a quick list of like things that convinced you from atheist to theist?
You want to know the process for me?
Absolutely.
I'll try to summarize it. And again, I'll try, and I can. What I would love to do is give you all the examples from the Bible, but I'm not going to do that because this is my life story in a minute. Okay. I already mentioned the thing with my mom. That's an example. I did not grow up in a Christian family, but I did have neighbors that I would go to church with. Since I didn't grow up in a Christian family and my dad loved to teach me science, there was a big disconnect. When I went to Sunday school or youth groups, I would ask questions, tough questions, right, that they couldn't answer. I got kicked out of Sunday school or youth groups because of it, because they couldn't answer tough questions. They told me, oh, God will bring you back. You know, how ridiculous is that? And then as you grow up and you go to school and then they tell you millions of years and you're like, oh, science, you know, you're dumb if you don't believe in what you're being fed to believe, right? Obviously.
Wrong.
And then you watch things on the news too, and you're like, oh, hey, it looks like, you know, these Fox News Christian people don't like to feed the poor, right? And you start getting mad, and then you learn history, and you're like, the Crusades, oh, the freaking diseases, and to the Americans, you have a lot of emotions. Then you go to college, and trust me, it only gets worse until you meet a girl who can answer your questions, right? Well, first you talk to a girl. I talked to one Christian girl I met, and she answered a couple of my questions, but we kind of parted ways pretty quickly. But then I realized on the next one, I'm not going to be as aggressive, so it was a little slower. But she took the time and answered all of my questions the best she could, as hard as it was. And then slowly, it was like 7 years later, and there was a process to it. And now
well, I'm gonna have to interrupt you there because you guys are welcome to hang out in the offline chat, but I've been streaming for 3 hours and I'm gonna be ending the broadcast here. So thank you so much to the people in the side chat watching. There's a lot of super chat donations. Thank you. It was a really great debate. So I give all the credit to James and Luca. You guys did an excellent job.
Did we post a link to me and Amy's channel there if anybody wants the debate?
Yeah, I will add it to the description of this video, but I'll add that.
One quick thing.
I'll put your links in the description. How about that?
Thank you very much for hosting these, Atheist Junior. I really appreciate what you're doing. You're one of the channels that of the 250 plus channels I'll be featuring on October 5th on a live stream on my channel, where I'll be featuring over 250 atheist channels. So I'm looking forward to that. And Amy's in there too. Leo Phillips are in there as well. So I'm making sure that we try to get everybody in, and I hope I haven't missed anyone. So
cool. Awesome.
Thank you for what you're doing. You're a great contributor to the atheism demographic online, and I greatly appreciate all that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm awesome. You know, and my content is awesome. really impressive. You know what I mean? I can't say enough good things about me. So thank you to all the people watching. Thank you to myself. I couldn't have done it without me. You know, and just
you'd like to apologize for nothing.
My message to all the people out there is believe in yourself. Don't tell yourself that you're making mistakes. Just say, hey, it's part of the process and I'm going to do better. I'm going to improve. I'm not going to beat myself up for it. I'm going to stay positive, have a positive mental attitude. And, you know, call your mom and tell her that you love her because you haven't talked to her in a long time. When was the last time you called her? Come on. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video, but you guys are welcome to hang out in the offline chat.
Thanks, AJ.